Traveling the Vortex.
We've joined Captain Jack and a team of Torchwood as they defend Earth in this episode, number 79 of Traveling the Vortex, your 10 o'clock edition. I'm Keith.
I'm Sean.
I'm Glenn.
How were you guys this weekend?
Good. Sean, what did you do this week? You start off. You usually don't start off.
What did I do this weekend? I did nothing.
We went bowling last night.
We went bowling last
Finally?
night.
You finally got a weekend to do
I
nothing?
finally got a weekend to
You
do
spent
nothing.
like 6 hours playing
I
that
did.
game.
We decided we didn't want to do anything. We camped out. We watched movies. We rewatched Torchwood.
Well, we had 2 hellacious days on Thursday and Friday.
Oh,
Yeah,
well,
we did. That was...
And then the heat on top of it.
Yeah.
That
And we were
definitely,
outside shooting in the heat.
definitely led up to it. But we spent 6 hours playing Lara Croft. Still haven't finished it. And
Guardian of Light.
It's a fun little arcade game. It's just a lot more involved than I thought. So it was really nice to not do anything. We did go out and did some cyber bowling last night with the gang, and went over to Mel's brother's house today for a little bit of a barbecue, but really didn't do much, and it was blissful. It was really nice. And I think I needed, as you pointed out, we were out in the heat Thursday and Friday, which with Thursday, if I'm not mistaken, was the hottest day on record so far this year,
Yeah,
right?
This year.
Well, yeah, on record.
For us.
In fact, at one point, a spot in Kansas was the hottest place in the nation. Western Kansas. I can't remember the town, but it was like 118.
It wouldn't surprise me, because it was
That wasn't
bad.
even heat index.
And you know how those people go, well, at least it's a dry heat?
Well,
It's not
It
here.
wasn't.
yeah, but in western Kansas, the heat index is usually closer to the
Yeah.
actual air
Well, it's not
temperature
as
because
humid.
there's no humidity out there, or very little humidity.
Yeah, this was hot and wet, so we had many of us that, even Will, you know what a trooper Will is. He just about keeled over at one point, and so it was kind of like, okay, we're taking a break now. So. Yeah, Thursday was bad. Friday was not as bad, but still rough. But this weekend was nice. What'd you do?
Let's go to Glenn.
What'd you do?
I didn't do much yesterday.
I was a little
either.
surprised by one of your tweets yesterday.
We went out to one of my tweets. What did I do yesterday
You
that
rode
surprised
your
you?
bike.
Oh, yeah.
In the heat.
In the heat.
I had an,
We
I had
waited
an
until
afternoon
evening,
chunk.
though.
Oh, okay.
We waited till evening.
I had a chunk of time in the afternoon where I had nothing going on. I was like, oh, I could go play Frisbee golf, but it's 103 degrees outside.
It was still
Doesn't
pretty
that
hot last
suck?
night.
It does.
It- it's-
the
it's-
one Saturday I have free time to go play.
I told Mel the same thing. It was like, I feel really bad because Keith's finally got discs. We've got time.
It's
and
too
it's
hot.
too hot. It's
It was
just
even
like-
still too hot
We
today.
got a lot of summer left and some fall. It'll be nice. We'll
I'm
be
going to
able
set
go
up a
out
course
some more.
indoors.
Yes.
I'm going to go buy one
Westridge
basket.
or White Lakes.
Yeah, I'm going to do it here in the apartment. I'm going to buy one basket and we'll just move it from the bedroom to the living room. You got to go around
Banking
the
it off
bookcase.
the walls. And, yesterday was just kind
Off the
of...
disco ball, nothing but net.
Yesterday was kind of about a peaceful day. We didn't do much. Went out to eat for lunch and did some shopping, I think. But then, last night, Caitlin and I went bike riding a little bit. 7:30, 8 o'clock, I think. No, maybe even earlier than that. Probably about 6:30, 7 o'clock.
Well, it was still hot, though.
It was pretty warm, but we didn't ride far. We rode up and down around the street, around our blocks and stuff, and we were we rode for about a half hour, maybe 45 minutes. It wasn't bad. It really wasn't. And then it felt great. That was the first time I'd have been on a bike in probably 20 years. And it felt so good. It was incredible. I really was, because I've been talking about getting a bike for months and months and months, and then I finally broke down and bought one, and it still hadn't ridden it until this week.
So when you were out, did you look down at your legs and have that flashback to the Muppet movie where Kermit's riding the bike and just go, "This doesn't look right"?
No, I don't think so.
You never did that?
No.
I do that every time I'm on a bike. I look down and I see them little green chicken legs.
Today we went and saw
Oh, yes.
the Pirates Band of Misfits. Is that what it's
Yes,
called?
a band of misfits. What'd you think?
Best thing about it's the voice cast. The voices are good.
I thought it was a very charming
Not
movie.
quite the stellar review that Keith gave it.
Charming's maybe the right word. It's there's a couple of funny moments. It's not hilarious. It's just kind of quaint. It's
There's a lot of moments I thought that
the
made
best
you
I could
chuckle but
say
not
is
laugh.
yeah. The best I could say is meh. I could see where it would have been a
The
better
best
book.
you can say is
I mean,
meh?
I think it would have been a better book. I think it would have been a better read. I don't know. I love I love
the
Wallace
book is
and Gromit.
just as
I loved Chicken
ridiculous.
Run, so I was so excited because it's the same company and. Yeah, just I don't know. The kids liked it, so that's always important to me. If the kids enjoy it, then I mean they didn't think it was rip-roaring hilarious. But they
I think
liked
one
it,
of the things
so.
I liked about it most is the subtle humor it had. Just the little things that they put in there that just made me chuckle.
Mason liked Mr. Bobo.
He was one of my favorite parts too.
Yeah.
Okay, wait a minute.
All his cards.
You have a photo posted on Facebook of your daughter picking up fireworks
Yep, I do.
in a Justin Bieber T-shirt.
Yeah, she's.
You didn't see
she's a
the other
Justin
picture?
Bieber fan. She's a Justin Bieber fan.
I thought you raised her better.
He's
She
all right.
probably wants to see Twilight at some point too.
She's not really that. She's not that teeny.
She's
then-
not there yet.
And then tonight we went and got fireworks and went and had a cookout with some friends and put a set off some fireworks tonight.
I saw the
so.
picture of her
holding
holding
the fireworks that I tweeted. Yeah, we let her hold a Roman candle.
Was that her first time
So
doing
yeah,
that?
this is obviously. Oh no, she held them last year too.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, obviously, if you hear some pops and crackles in the background of tonight's show, it's because it is Independence Day or the weekend before Independence Day. So, and this is the
today
first
was
day
the first legally.
in the city that you could fire off fireworks. So
Not that stopped
they've
anyone.
been- yeah, but they've gone off a lot today. I've heard
Yeah,
nothing but
a lot more.
nonstop fireworks.
Well, we went and
today.
stopped and picked up fireworks yesterday, and they put a little yellow slip of paper in there saying you cannot legally
Here's a
set off.
reminder.
Yeah. Well, Sarah and I went and met with a DJ, and we're going with a guy named Dr. Tunes. That's the name of his company. He's a former radio personality
is
for
that
the
Doug?
area. Rick, yeah.
Or Rick, not Doug. Rick.
Are you going with him because he has doctor in his name?
No, he's
Rick
really
Douglas.
enthusiastic.
Doug, that's it. His
Yeah,
last
Rick
name's
Douglas.
I knew I was getting Doug from somewhere.
really enthusiastic. We were on the same page with a lot of stuff, and we're getting close to down to the wire, and he was available too, and a reasonable price. So, because our previous DJ fell through, so
Rick's a good guy.
he was really nice. I really liked him.
You know how to DJ your wedding?
Yeah, but we would also have to rent all the equipment.
My sister would have done it. Now I think about it, she's done a couple.
Well, where were you?
She'd have done it cheap. I didn't. I completely forgot she does. She doesn't. I mean, she's not. She doesn't do it like professionally.
Yeah.
She does it kind of as a hobby. But she's pretty good. She's done a couple dozen weddings. So. I didn't
Well,
think about it.
regardless,
she
we
probably
have-
would have done it cheap. Sorry.
We've already put a deposit down. And
Oops.
really, after looking at DJs online for the area, he's reasonably priced.
Can I get a high five for the epic fail on our part?
Oh well.
Sorry, we fell down on the job there, Keithers.
Yeah,
She's
it's all
actually
right.
got the equipment too. Jeez. You didn't have
Even
to
more
rent
fail.
anything or anything.
I'd have just showed up with a
I didn't
whole
think
bunch
of
of
that.
speaker wire and a couple of speakers. I'd have been wiring stuff from. I'd have been like the Radio Shack guy. I'd have been wiring. We'd have made it work.
And then Sarah and I just did some running around, had coffee with my mom. Kind of a very relaxed weekend for us. But,
I know what you guys did this week.
well,
You guys both picked up certain
on
books.
Saturday I went and picked up Shudda because it came out Tuesday, and I was too poor. I had
I
to
don't
wait
think
till I
it came
got
out.
paid.
Till Friday.
I don't think it came out Tuesday.
It supposedly came out Tuesday. It might not have been in
I
our
don't think it
store
was in our store
Tuesday,
Tuesday.
but it came out Tuesday.
Because he showed me Tuesday that he'd picked it up, and I was all excited. I was like, "Where was it?" And he says, "Oh, it was on this table at Barnes
I
Noble."
showed you Saturday.
Yeah, Saturday.
Yeah, you said Tuesday.
Well, you said it came out Tuesday, but you picked it up Saturday. He
Yes.
showed me Saturday. And he's like, "Oh, they had this whole table full of Doctor Who stuff at Barnes & Noble." I was like, "Yeah, I saw it, because Barnes & Noble happens to be running a really good sale right now."
Oh, dang it. I didn't get out there today.
Is it over today?
No,
Oh,
it's
no,
going
it
on
goes till the
through-
end of the month.
What did I text you, the 6th?
Did you?
I texted you the date, and you replied. You were like, "Oh, okay, cool. This is how well Glenn listens to me."
I remember.
I'm
I
assuming
thought
you sent the same text to
the
both
last
of us.
one I remember
No,
was
'cause he asked you.
the last
Oh.
one I remember is I don't know in the month.
But I found out, and I sent it to
find
you.
out.
Anyway, Barnes & Noble is running a buy two, get one free sale on DVDs. And I assume Blu-rays. So I took advantage of it and went and picked up
July
some Doctor
9th.
Who's. July 9th.
Yeah, you
Thank
did.
you.
Which Doctor
was
Who's
in
did
a
you pick
grouping,
up?
Oh, you're going to ask me now. I picked... Well, they're all
I
going to
could
show up
probably-
on the schedule at some point. I got...
I could probably tell you for you.
What did I get? I got the Gunfighters with William Hartnell, the War Machines with William Hartnell.
I can tell you, they're in the same message that I was looking at.
I picked up
Nightmare of Eden. Oh, wait, no, that was when you were questioning. No, you did.
I did pick up
You got
Sunmakers.
Gunfighters, Nightmare of England, and The Happiness Patrol.
I got the Time Monster. I got
With
the Happiness
Higgs
Patrol.
Wait, when did you get Time Monster?
That was his first
batch.
first
Oh, it
round.
was. There it is. With Higgs particle.
With Higgs particle.
That's what he put.
I know.
Oh, you were getting the group ones.
And
War Machines,
sent it to both of us,
Sunmakers, Time Monster, Gunfighters, Nightmare of Eden, Happiness Patrol,
and Shot Up.
and the book.
Well,
the book
that's because I was there buying all these DVDs, and I never saw Shot on the table. But then after you said you got it, I went back. So I was at the third time at Barnes & Noble. And I didn't pick up any videos this time, but I did pick up the book. So.
I gotta remember. I'm going to put it in my reminders.
And I think we have a new...
Don't ask Siri to do it.
I think we have a new number one fan designation.
Oh yeah.
Chrissy sent Sarah and I a gift.
That is so
for our
cool.
big day coming up, or for the bridal shower. I'm not sure which. But she sent us a pair of tongs, kitchen tongs, so you can, or they're sometimes called turners or ice thingies.
Are they time turners?
Ice thingies. I've heard them called ice thingies before.
You know what? I can't think of the word now. Ice.
They're
ice
tongs.
tongs. Yeah, I guess so.
They're tongs.
Just so people know what I'm talking about. But
There's no H. It's just tongs.
tongs. Tongs.
Right.
She included a little note saying, Keith and Sarah, big congrats and good luck to both of you, Chrissy.
That is so awesome.
So that's very nice. Thank you very much from both of us, Chrissy. And Sarah wanted to make sure I gave you a huge shout out during the podcast.
Keith, get off the chair. What are you doing? I can't see this. Okay. Chrissy,
So
you
you
should
are
have seen
now-
it. It was huge.
Number one fan in my book. Now,
Very
I'm not
cool.
saying that other people need to go this far to be number one fan.
Yes, you are.
I know a lot of people were thinking, hey, wait a minute. Because I did not expect or push for any of our listeners to send us.
No, I'm pretty sure I did that for you.
Yeah, you did that once.
Way to go, Chrissy.
way to make Sean look vindicated.
I'm always vindicated. Now, you know what would be a totally awesome wedding gift?
What?
If we had a place to stay for Chicago TARDIS. I mean, that would be it would be kind of like a second honeymoon for you guys to be able to
It
get to go to
would.
Chicago and see Doctor Who stuff. If only we knew somebody in Chicago that could come through for us on that.
Too bad.
Oh, well, would have been nice.
Shoulda, coulda, woulda.
Traveling the Vortex, your guilt-ridden podcast since 2011.
And that's about all we did. We didn't really do much. Went and set off fireworks with the nephew on Saturday night. And I don't
guys
know
are
how you
crazy.
didn't sweat to death biking, because I got your tweet around the same time that we were doing that. Maybe the biking caused wind. I don't know, but I don't sweat that much usually, and I was starting to drip.
Yeah.
Just setting these fireworks off, and I blew out my flip
It
flop.
was warm, but I don't know. It
This
wasn't
just,
bad.
you
I don't know. We were having so much fun. I
We're
just
in
don't think we
Kansas.
noticed it.
It's 1 billion degrees out. I have an idea. Let's go outside and start fires. I mean, what part of this sounds like fun?
Well, I have to work Friday, so it's not like I can go and actually, or not Friday, the 4th, Wednesday. So it's not like I can actually go and set off fireworks with the nephew on the 4th. So we had to do it Saturday.
Calling sick. No one will know.
Yeah, because no one else will be there.
See? What is that?
That's my Twitter client.
Oh, it tweets at you.
He tweets at me
Are
when I
you
get new
tweeting
tweets.
while we're talking?
No, not yet. I was going to, but
Mr. Browsing Facebook while we're talking.
I was looking up the Dr. Phil thing.
sure.
I was.
So was I.
And then I laughed at a
Speaking of the
picture.
Dr. Phil news thing,
Yeah, let's talk about news here.
Let's
And
talk
there
about
is
how
some
cool
big
we
news.
are.
Let me get
This totally made my week. I mean, this was like justification in a bottle.
serendipity continues to surround us.
Well, here, let me set this up because actually Dr. Phil clued us into this. He posted on the Traveling the Vortex Facebook page. Didn't you just predict this in your latest Traveling the Vortex episode, looking at Keith Miles? And there's a link to an article on the Mail, dailymail.co.uk. And as soon as it loads here, it took a little bit to load last time. I shouldn't have backed up. Oh, here it comes. The title of this article is called God Particle is Found. Scientists at CERN expected to announce on Wednesday Higgs boson particle has been discovered. And the article, it's a pretty short one. I'll read it here real quick. Scientists at CERN will announce that the elusive Higgs boson God particle has been found at a press conference next week, it is believed. 5 leading theoretical excuse me. I hate when it does that. Sorry. Got away from my article here. 5 leading theoretical physicists have been invited to the event on Wednesday, sparking speculation that the particle has been discovered. Scientists at the Large Hadron Collider are expected to say they are 99.99% certain it has been found, which is known as 4 sigma level. Peter Higgs, the Edinburgh University emeritus professor of physics that the particle is named after, is among those who has been called to the press conference in Switzerland.
That kind of lends a little bit of weight to the idea that it's not just a crazy rumor. The guy they named it after is going to be there.
Not to mention the management at CERN want 2 teams of scientists to reach the 5 sigma level of certainty with their results, so they are 99.999995% sure, such as the significance of the results. So there's more to it, but
I can't wait till Wednesday to find out.
Yeah, so
hopefully they give a lot of details of how they found it.
I forgot to read this part here. It says that a man in a World War II style trench coat is actually being credited for discovering the God particle. No, that's not part of the article. We're just goading Keith at this point.
And I did something that does not translate in audio.
So anyway, that's pretty cool.
That is really cool. That's awesome.
We predicted it.
And
if we say it, it will be so.
The serendipity continues to surround Traveling the Vortex.
Now, I would like to point out, A, you didn't even want to review that story, and I'm pointing out that. And B, you were all like, maybe they'll find it in our lifetime, maybe not.
No, that's not what I said.
But I think they will.
I was about
And then you were all like, we're not going to Mars in our lifetime.
That's what.
That's what I wasn't.
Now he remembers it.
No,
it was Mars.
He said both.
No, he didn't say
that about Higgs.
He said Higgs was plausible in our lifetime.
I said it was
not.
close in our lifetime.
He said it was close.
You said plausible.
Close.
You said possibly we would discover it. He said that's why you felt cheated, because you felt like it was something that was attainable.
That's because
Within
obviously it is.
I'm calling it now Mars. Don't argue with me.
I would agree, Mars. But I don't remember him saying
God particle.
I don't remember him saying
Right here. And I don't know why they think it was so elusive. It was on Traveling the Vortex's podcast last week.
That's why.
Don't these guys at the Large Hadron Collider have anything to do other than listen to podcasts? They listen to us. They would have known where to look.
They listened to our podcast and then found it.
It was in the Cracker Jacks. I told you. How cool is that?
That is cool.
That is really
awesome
awesome
news.
Now,
I plan on running something on the news about it.
forgive
on
me
Wednesday.
for being the
Especially
Neanderthal.
considering nothing else is going to happen
That's
on
kind of a
Wednesday.
huge deal.
All right, now forgive me for being the Neanderthal of the group. What do we do with it now that we found it?
Well, it confirms a lot of theories.
Yeah, and I mean it.
Well, it almost confirms Big Bang Theory, doesn't it?
No, I don't think it confirms Big Bang. What it does is it will help us judge the. I think it helps us in understanding how antimatter works. if this theory is proven true, then what it does is it lends to a lot of theories that are out there, including string theory, including Big Bang. I mean, it doesn't solve anything, but it opens doors as to possibilities of where to look for other things.
It's essentially why they built the Large Hadron Collider.
Yeah,
one of the main reasons.
The main reason, yeah. They're colliding them to study antimatter is what they're doing, or discover black holes.
If nothing else, this is one of those things that scientists can chalk up a win in the column, in the W column, and go, hey, we need more money now to be able to prove other things.
If this is right,
theoretical
physicists,
in theoretical physics, there are so few wins. Like when you watch Big Bang Theory, Leonard talks about how there's nothing new in physics. Now there actually is something new in physics.
And the biggest win of all will be CBS and the Big Bang Theory, because they'll have all kinds of stuff to write about for next season.
They really will. Well, in fact, there was an episode, was it 2 years ago, that Leonard was going to go to the CERN.
Large Hadron Collider. Yep. So there you go.
And look at that. We didn't get flashes forward of 39 years or whatever.
Well, they still haven't made the black holes yet. They're still working on that.
Yeah, but that wasn't what caused it in flash forward.
All right. Well, the next bit of news is a little DVD has been announced officially now. There's been some speculation on this, but
they haven't announced the release date. But The Ambassadors of Death will be released in full color.
Woot!
The 7-part story was originally made in color as part of the first Jon Pertwee season, but only a master tape to remain in the BBC archive is that of episode 1. The rest of the story is only kept as a 16mm black and white film. A second-generation color copy does exist as an off-air recording from a news station in Buffalo, New York, and was used to restore episodes 5 and 6 to color in the 2002 video releases. At the time, it was not possible to restore the remainder, but with the advances of technology, it's now possible, and they will do so. And they hope to release the story later this year.
I'm excited because I've heard that's a really good one, and it's one I've never seen.
One I've never seen.
One of the few Pertwees left that I haven't seen.
I wonder if
you got a lot of Pertwee. Do you realize that?
I do have a lot of Pertwee. I'm excited now.
That's awesome.
I wonder if the death of Carolyn had any kind of
spurred that on.
Yeah, if that was in some way
for the announcement, or
just the fact that we can do it now.
Maybe they bumped it up on the slate.
Maybe it was one of those things that they were going to hold on to it, and then her passing kind of made them realize that.
That's the only Liz Shaw that's not out on DVD, isn't it?
Right.
So
of the 4.
Yeah. Well, it was 5, wasn't it?
If you include the doctors.
I thought it was more than that.
No, just 4 stories. 20 some odd episodes.
A true full season.
I don't know. It just struck me as the timing I thought was serendipitous.
I wouldn't.
I guess in a way.
Yeah, serendipitous maybe. I don't think that's what spurred it, but serendipitous nonetheless. All right, and then speaking of announcements and possible not announcements, but speaking of speculation.
This
is going to be speculation.
If you don't want any sort of spoiler at all...
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. You have been warned. We are going to be talking spoilers. Possible. Maybe. Definite.
Well, we definitely know the title of the first episode of Season 7. They announced it is called Asylum of the Daleks. And confirmed that this is the episode that has every single Dalek ever, including special weapons. And because they announced it that on August 14th, the British Film Institute will premiere it. And then also, it will be shown at the Media Guardian Edinburgh International Television Festival, which runs 23rd to 25th of August. Now, the speculation is last year's Let's Kill Hitler received a screening at both prior to its broadcast on the bank holiday weekend, which this year would be Saturday the 25th of August.
So we're thinking we have a possible date as
We
well.
might have a possible date if previous patterns hold.
I'm going to have to change the
Yeah,
schedule.
I was going to say, you're busy on the schedule, Sean. You got some
It
rearranging to
wouldn't
do.
surprise me if in a couple of weeks we get an official announcement.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise
I
me.
wouldn't change the schedule until we got an official.
If BBC's smart, they'll wait to announce that to coincide with the beginning of the Olympics. I mean, think about it. When you have all that viewership.
And the fact that...
Oh, ta-da! Doctor Who's coming back.
The theme will be played during the opening ceremonies, too.
I mean,
Why would you wait? I mean, you could announce it in a couple of weeks and then really bombard people during the
Or-
Olympics with it.
have a trailer,
Ready to go.
Yeah.
a new trailer for the Olympics.
That's what I mean. It's all part and parcel that when you get those
Yes.
high figures for
Yes,
opening
that
ceremonies or whatever it is, and then, oh, by the way, there's a Doctor Who trailer. I mean, that's how I'd do it.
Yeah.
Hit him over the head with it.
Do it.
And
So, yay.
One more bit of
our
news
last
that
bit
associates
that could be
with
spoilers.
yeah.
Somebody that we've talked about before on the podcast, and a bit of personal serendipity for me. David Warner is going to star in an upcoming episode of Doctor Who,
Oh, get out of town.
which is serendipity for me because this was released on Wednesday. On Tuesday, I rewatched the original Tron.
Really?
Yeah, the very next
That's right.
day.
You
watched them both,
texting me
didn't
about that.
Yeah,
We were gonna
I
do
watched
it.
Tron and then Tron Legacy because I discovered Tron Uprising and I wanted to refresh
Oh,
myself.
yeah. That's good. Have you watched
I
any of
watched
it?
the first episode
Isn't
and
that
was
great?
like, I need to go back and
It's really well
rewatch
done.
these.
It's on Disney XD, and it's a cartoon series in the Tron world, and
It's set before Legacy,
Right.
about the uprising against Clue.
right.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So far, it's really
It's very
impressive.
good.
And
It's very, very good.
the original voice of Tron is back. I can never
Bruce
pronounce-
Boxleitner.
Bruce
Yep.
Boxleitner. He's on
And
it.
Elijah Wood.
He's not on it much though. I've
is the
watched a
main
couple
character.
episodes. He's really in that first one and a little bit of like the second one, I think. So, but yeah, he's got a voice in it. So
But anyway, David Warner will be on Doctor Who.
Now, that's serendipitous for a number of reasons. Not only because you watched Tron, and of course he was, Sark, but because we talked about, when we reviewed Frontier in Space, David Warner would make a totally awesome
Oh, yeah.
Draconian.
Well, and he's been on
we
Who
challenged
before.
we challenged Stephen Moffat to make it happen. So maybe the Draconian.
interestingly enough, he's going to be a Draconian in the series. When that would be way too.
That would
much.
be
That would
way
be too awesome.
I'd go out and buy a lottery ticket tonight if we got that one.
if David
With
Warner
all
shows
of your
up,
birthdays.
if David Warner shows up in Series 7 as a Draconian, we're changing our name to Guard Particle. That's the name of the podcast from this point out.
But it's almost guaranteed to be a good episode, in my opinion, because Mark Gatiss is going to write it.
Ooh.
Yeah.
David Warner speaking Mark Gaddis's words. I'm excited.
And it will be with, obviously, because Amy and Roy are done, with JLC.
JLC.
I was going to do it. Jenna Louise Coleman.
The story is due for transmission in early 2013. And, that's about all we know about it. It's going to be directed by Douglas McKinnon.
I thought you were going to go Adams for a minute, and I was like, wow, they really pulled out all the stops. How'd they pull that one off?
But he directed The Sontaran Stratagem and Poison Sky in 2008. And will also feature Liam Cunningham. He was in First Night, Clash of the Titans, BBC One science fiction drama series Outcasts. I recognize his face. He's also on Game of Thrones.
Cool.
So, yeah. That is really cool, especially since we talked about having him on.
Having him on? Are you talking about having him on our show?
Yeah, we talked about that.
If you could make
We
that
discussed
happen,
that.
Keith, I'd appreciate that.
I'll do what I can.
You weren't listening as usual, but we talked about it.
I'll set up the Skype to record. Skype him in.
Well, now that we've said, hey, David Warner would be great on Doctor Who, anybody else we want to throw a name out there to
Who
try
would
to
you
get
like to
them
see on
on?
Doctor Who, Sean? We can make it happen.
Tom Baker.
Well,
I think he'd be really
too.
good on the show.
Yeah,
I think
that-
he's a good guy. Yeah.
Well, that 5-doctor panel that we watched, he made it sound like if the story's good enough, he would come on.
Oh, yeah, this week, if the story's good enough.
Yeah, next week.
Next week, hard telling.
Next week we'll be subbing in his wax figure for publicity photos.
I'm sure the story's good enough and enough money.
This is anybody. I mean, I'm jazzed about David Warner. I mean, that David Warner is one of those people. I don't know if I told you this. I actually had a dream. This is how sad I've gotten. I dreamed about Galley next year. And I dreamed that David Warner was going to be there as a guest. Because David played, he's been in many Big Finish
He was Lord
audios.
Asloff in Dreamland.
Yes, in the animated.
Yeah.
He's been in
animated one.
several Big Finish audio adventures, including that spin-off series where he actually played the Doctor in the kind of Elseworld stories that they did. And my panicked moment was we were standing in line for the autograph, and Mel looked at me and was like, what's wrong? And I literally woke up in a panic because I could not decide what to have him autograph. I mean, it's David Warner. Do I go with a Tron picture, a Doctor Who picture, a Titanic picture, a Star Trek? I mean, what do you have the guy autograph?
A Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle picture?
He's been in everything. He is kind of like the nexus point of sci-fi geekdom. What do you have him autograph? So, yeah, I'm really jazzed about that.
I knew out of all of us, Sean would be the most excited.
I'm very, very excited about David Warner. Time after time?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, do the list. It's like, whoa.
Star Trek.
Star Trek 6, Star Trek 5, Star Trek The Next Generation. In fact, David Warner...
I'm not going to mention the new one.
What?
He was in the remake of Planet of the Apes. I try not to acknowledge his existence.
Yeah, but so was Paul Giamatti. That's not a thing. David Warner actually holds the... I'm going to geek out for just a minute. David Warner holds the distinction. Mark Leonard, who played Spock's father, Sarek, is the only actor in the history of Star Trek to have played, quote, the big three. He played a Vulcan, a Romulan, and a Klingon in various episodes and movies. David Warner's a very close second because he has played a human and a Klingon and a Cardassian.
Ooh.
So...
Wait, was he a Kardashian in
Cardassian.
Cardassian.
No H.
Cardassian in Next Gen?
Yes.
Okay.
He's the one, do you remember the one where Picard got captured and was tortured?
Oh, yeah.
He's done a lot
The
of
guy.
voice work, hasn't he?
Yeah.
He's done a ton of voice work, too.
I didn't realize
There
that.
are 3 lights.
There are 3 lights, yeah. That was David Warner.
Oh, nice.
So, okay, enough of that. What have we got on feedback? I'll be the one. Glenn's playing with his iPad. He's looking at David
I
Warner.
was
and
looking
he was
at
the
David
lobe.
Warner's IMDb.
Yeah, he was the Lobe on Freakazoid.
I was looking at David Warner's IMDb.
He's huge, I'm telling you.
He is. And
Oh,
Ra's al Ghul.
he was Jor-El on Lois and Clark: The New Adventures.
He's Ra's al Ghul on the animated Batman.
Yeah,
Is that the...
that's the Dean Cain one.
Yes.
Yeah, on TV, and Terry Hatcher.
Yes.
You're going to include a link in the show notes for people who want to look up David Warner.
I may need to.
Because he's been in a
He's
lot.
been in everything.
He was even in an episode of
Time
Captain Planet.
Bandits. That's right.
Yeah, he was the ultimate
That's
evil.
right.
I forgot about Time Bandits.
Yep.
See, I mean, you could have him sign a Time Bandits picture.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, how would you
on
choose that?
David Warner. What's next? Feedback.
Feedback.
Feedback. We've got some.
Well, since I did a lot of
feedback.
reading there, we'll have Sean read Mark's bit of feedback.
I did it for you this week, Sean.
You did, and you did a fine job of it.
It was kind of lame. But
I
thank
liked
you.
it.
It was kind of a different rendition. I didn't want to do it exactly like you do it.
Well, then you'd just be ripping him off.
That's right.
And you have to pay royalties.
Yeah, about that. I still have yet to receive a check from anything. First bit of feedback comes from Mark Lee, who writes, and I'll be honest, I'm not sure if this is supposed to be part of the email or not. Because if it is part of the, and I apologize, Mark, if I'm ruining your joke. If it's part of the email, I don't get it. If it's not part of the email,
Just read it.
okay.
Just read it.
Mark writes, 1, milk. 2, bread. 3, eggs. 4, birthday card. Try not to forget it again, Mark. Hey guys, I haven't been traveling the Vortex for a few weeks now, and I haven't seen Doctor Who for even longer. I've missed the Doctor and the 3 Americans who are reviewing his life. So, there are a few things to catch up on. I think I'll do it in random order. Okay, so first of all, have you guys ever listened to Jago and Lightfoot from Big Finish? If not, you have to. Jago and Lightfoot is an audio series from Big Finish Productions, and the stories involve Henry Gordon Jago and George Lightfoot, characters first introduced in the 4th Doctor episode, The Talons of Wen Chiang, solving mysteries involving paranormal or alien phenomena in 1880s London. I remember coming across it and starting at Series 3. I haven't the slightest idea why I started there, but I was put off by it, because it involved Leela straight from Gallifrey, and it confused me. And the last thing I want from an audiobook is to be confused. But
Rightfully so.
Try Minuet in Hell. But I gave it another chance and started from Series 1. And now I'm really enjoying the series. If I was to recommend a way to listen to it, I would say make sure you're going to sleep in a dark room with a classic lantern, your iPod or iPhone, yes, I'm a sheepshawn, playing the audio. The classic light, the shadows it casts, and the slight creepiness of it adds to the atmosphere of Jago and Lightfoot. It fits the music perfectly and makes it a lot more enjoyable. It just helps get into the mind of a 19th century gentleman, which in turn makes the series more fun. Sorry for the rant, I'm just really enjoying the show, and think yourselves and the listeners would enjoy it too.
This description makes me think
Go ahead.
Madame Bastra Jenny 18th century audio adventure would work well too.
A little bit. And you stay away from Jago and Lightfoot until we've watched Talons.
Yeah, I was planning on
Okay. I was just going to address that.
I would have no point of reference for
That-
these
right,
characters,
exactly.
so
Yeah.
I would be disinterested just after the first episode.
I don't think you would, because I've heard a little bit of the first
'Cause they're
episode
good
of the
enough
first series,
stories.
and the guys have fantastic chemistry, tremendous chemistry. I had to fight myself from listening to it because I thought as soon as we did Talons, we'd probably want to review this, and I thought I'd rather review it when it's fresh in my mind, so I didn't go any further with it. But I've been chomping at the bit to listen to it myself.
To answer your question, Mark, no, we haven't listened to any. And the reason for that is because we do have Talons on the schedule as probably our Halloween offering for this year. Or sometime around then we'll do a show dedicated to it. And then we'll be dipping our toe in the Jago and Lightfoot universe, if Glenn's not adverse to it.
No, not at all. No.
Sounds like he's very for it.
Yeah.
Second of all, City of Death is one of my favorite episodes of Who.
Yay.
It's funny, witty, and has the guy with the teeth and the curls. Even if people do find flaws in it, any Who is good Who, especially this one. I've come up with an idea, guys, and I thought I'd tell you about it. Okay, so when I go on long car journeys, I often download a few random episodes of Traveling the Vortex and throw them onto my iPhone. Sorry, that was meant to be a sheep noise. I thought you did it very well. I read it just like you typed it. So instead of the last-minute rush for episodes, I've made a Traveling the Vortex album, which includes my favorite episodes from you guys, and episodes that I have memories of the first time I was listening to them, such as the first Christmas episode always reminds me of being sat outside my grandparents' house in the snow, and the Halloween episode, which brings me back to a firework party with the family last year.
What?
And it's as if you got... Yeah, I'm not quite sure what Halloween and fireworks have to do, but yeah, he's not from the U.S., so...
He's over in the UK.
Such as the first Christmas episode always reminds me of being sat outside my grandparents' house in the snow.
Were you in trouble?
And the
you
Halloween
get kicked out of
episode,
Grandma and Grandpa's?
which brings me back to a firework party with my family. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
We're teasing. It's as if you guys have been part of all of the holidays, vacations, and long train journeys I've been on over the past year or so. It's great how your podcast has brought a bunch of Whovians together and inspired us all to procrastinate more. Well done, guys. You're doing a brilliant job as always.
Was he out in the snow when he heard the first Christmas episode?
I'm assuming
he was
that's what
listening
it
to the
was.
Halloween episode when he was at a fireworks party. Okay, I'm sorry, trying to piece that together, Mark.
Mark's,
Your
you
little
got us in the
parentheses
details
here,
now.
Yeah, it's just that was okay. Go ahead. Sorry.
You know, I read this, and yes, I laughed for one of the reasons that we just were poking a little fun at. Because, I mean, there's a part of me that thinks you're at a fireworks party and you're listening to us. Dude, live a little. Get out there and move out of your parents' basements and, you know, do the Shatner, get a life kind of thing. Because you're at a party. Don't listen to us at parties. But then there was another part of me that was very much...
I was listening to...
He just insulted Mark.
No, I didn't mean to do that.
I think it was insulting probably several listeners.
Well, I don't mean it that way. There's a part of it that was like, I'm still flabbergasted. I'm gobsmacked that we've become woven into people's lives like this. I mean,
it's amazing.
I'm very humbled. Don't get me wrong. I'm very, very, very humbled.
And
despite the fact that I've
listeners...
made 3 God particle jokes already today. I do. I feel very fortunate that we have listeners that, like Mark, is verbalizing that we've kind of woven ourselves into the tapestry of their lives, and that
it touches you.
It does. I'm very touched by that.
And the fact that our listeners have now been woven into our lives.
Yeah, you got a wedding gift.
I got a wedding gift from a listener. Yeah. It's amazing what, as he says, how this podcast has brought a bunch of Whovians together.
Well, we've all touched each other. I didn't go there with it. You did.
Figuratively.
Oh, he goes on. The passing of Carolyn John this week was quite sad. I've been telling Alex for weeks, I'm going to write a Doctor Who reincarnated with an older Liz Shaw in it. And now I guess I have an excuse for it. It can be a dedication piece. But I'm sad that we've lost another companion. Lately we've lost the brilliant Liz Sladen, for which I'm still not completely recovered, the awesome Nicholas Courtney, and now Carolyn John. The Whoniverse is losing far too many people. Wow, that looks like quite a long email, and we made it longer.
Well, so did he by putting his grocery list in the beginning.
That's all for this week. I'm hoping to join you guys for Friday Night Who for the next few weeks because I've quite a long vacation ahead of me. So I'll see you then. Yours travelingly, Sir Mark McMarmite III. And as always, Mark, thank you very much for the email.
And he did tweet earlier in the week that he accidentally put his grocery list at the beginning of the email.
He said he thought he accidentally did and added a smiley face.
Yes.
So it's... I don't know if it was intended or not.
It might have been a joke, but he carried through with it if he did.
Well, this is what threw me, is because we just talked about it being your birthday. So I didn't know if there was an association with birthday card, try not to forget Mark, in relation to you, or if this was completely random and happenstance. So that's what really threw me.
What a crazy random happenstance.
It was almost serendipitous. So...
Our next bit of evil feedback is going to be a throwback.
Evil. Is it evil feedback?
It's evil.
The sharks with laser beams on their freaking heads?
It's sharks with laser beams.
Are they ill-tempered?
Is actually a throwback to Phil, Odd Duck Phil's.
Now happily married Odd Duck Phil.
That's right. And Mr. and Mrs. Odd Duck Phil.
Who are supposed to be sending us photo and or photos that we can post on the website.
Oh, good. From Florida.
From Florida.
Oh, terrific.
Is he going to do the tied to the Epcot thing? The British Square?
I doubt
Is he going to do that?
Oh, that'd be cool, though.
I thought that was a picture.
Anyway, we skipped a part of his feedback last week about Children of Earth so that we could read it this week, since that's what we're reviewing. So, who's reading that? Me?
Go ahead.
Children of Earth.
You set it up
I'll
nicely.
start it with number 3, Children of Earth. Because if you remember, it was one of 4 points. We skipped over 3.
4 last week.
Number 3, Children of Earth.
1, 2, 5.
1, 2, 7. Beep. All right, Children of Earth. I know it's early, but since I won't be able to chime in when you talk about it, guess what? The power of
wibbly wobbly
timey wimey. Here you are talking about it as we're about to talk about it. It's called editing. I wanted to send this in. I don't think this is spoilery. I guess it's a word now. Spoilery, as I won't talk about any specifics, but feel free to cut here and paste for the appropriate show.
Yes, we did.
This has to be one of the darkest, soul-crushing stories ever told in the Who universe. When I think of this show, I always think back to Gwen's speech about the Doctor. I think it was even part of the trailer, and why he sometimes doesn't show up when we need him. Great miniseries, but it definitely makes you feel ashamed to be Homo sapiens. Children of Earth, if you thought Waters of Mars was too upbeat, this is the story for you. Should honestly be the tagline. And then he's got a link to Gwen's Doctor speech on YouTube, which I will put in the show notes.
And, that
Yeah,
pretty much covers it.
Sums it up there.
Thanks for joining us this week. But we didn't really need to review it now. It's soul-crushing.
Soul-crushing.
Darker than waters of Mars.
Which, considering the universe, is quite an accomplishment.
Yeah. All right,
Our
next
last bit of feedback comes from Holly.
Hi, Holly.
Hey, guys. Great last podcast.
That works so well when we just... It's like she's in the room talking to us.
What can I say about this series? She's talking, of course, of Torchwood Children of Earth.
Really?
Just to clarify, it was in her subject line of her email.
It was.
It was a very unique undertaking, having the whole series run over the course of a whole week. There was a lot of action, adventure, and drama. All 5 episodes were pretty fast-paced. I was really shocked at day 4. Like everyone else, and there's still a few bitter feelings among some of the Torchwood fans still to this day about what happened. I like Ianto, and I can understand why RTD did what he did, but I still miss having Ianto around. He seemed to be Jack's compass in a way to keep him grounded, but that's enough on that subject. We get more background into Ianto's family, and while at first I didn't really like them in the first 2 episodes, towards the end they really start to pull together and realize what Ianto was a part of. Was very serious, and they helped out in whatever way they could. Also, finding out that Jack has a grown daughter and a grandson was just a little surprising the first time I saw this. I kind of liked Lois Habiba. Too bad they didn't keep her around. Frobisher really got painted into a corner. In day 5, you really get the humanity stinks feeling, especially with the Prime Minister, Jack sacrificing Stephen. Really don't know what to say on that one. I still haven't made up my mind if he really didn't have a choice on that. The ending with Hastings telling the Prime Minister that she had recorded everything that had happened with the contact lenses made me like her a lot better than I did in the other episodes. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts on these episodes. Holly from Wisconsin.
Thank you as always, Holly.
Shall we get to the depressing discussions?
You guys are both kind of...
It's good. It's just, as Mark put, or as Phil put, soul-crushing.
I don't know. I mean, it is, but it's...
Well, let's start with day 1.
It's 5 days of probably some of the best television ever.
Certainly some of the best science fiction ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chrissy, I'm going to apologize in advance. This is going to be depressing.
And here's your 10 o'clock news with Traveling the Vortex. Children of Earth, Day 1. At 8:40 a.m., every child in the world suddenly stops, chanting the words, "We are coming," again and again. Whilst investigating, the remaining Torchwood team face greater personal and professional challenges than ever before, having to work with their numbers depleted.
Da-na-na.
So we discussed pre-show that we're kind of split on this episode. I don't
know if we're... yeah, okay, go ahead.
I thought it was split in the middle. The first half of it was set up to the fact that this isn't what you knew of Torchwood. And it felt a little drawn out of the team investigating several different things. There's a nice reference to Martha and her wedding, or honeymoon, and them trying to almost recruit a new doctor. And then when the doctor turns on Jack is when it picks up and just runs. But everything before that was a little slow, while, Sean, you thought it hit the ground running.
I really did think it hit the ground running. I think as a setup episode, I mean, this is essentially the pilot episode for the 3rd season. So yes,
it's the premiere, so you would expect action if you don't know what you're going into.
But we are dealing with picking up the pieces in a way. I mean, we're still reeling from the death of Tosh and Owen, and the Torchwood team is not quite complete yet. And I thought it was interesting that we started kind of right off the bat with Jack and Ianto investigating a hitchhiking mystery in the hospital. And realistically, that's the subplot for them being there. They're not really there for the hitchhiker. They're there to investigate this guy that they've kind of had their eye on to replace Owen as a doctor, that they needed somebody. And I liked that a lot. I liked how we were introduced to these characters right off the bat, that we get both the doc, what was his, I don't remember his name. We get the doctor, and then we also get Lois at home office, and it's kind of like, oh, these are going to be our replacements. And then immediately,
it's like what's going on with Frobisher.
Yeah,
and there's a lot of setup and a lot of what is going on.
But
in this
very
episode.
very early. I mean, it's within the first 5 minutes is when the children stop and then start chanting. I mean, that happens immediately. The mystery, you are thrown right in the middle of it. It's not like, as we discussed on some of the Scooby-Doo episodes of Doctor Who, where it's taken a while to get into it. It's just, boom, here it is. But it
takes,
take it and run with it.
It takes a little bit for... Well, it doesn't start with them chanting, unlike this says. All the children just froze.
They just froze, yeah.
Right.
And it took several times. It froze, and then they chanted.
Well, they froze, and then they screamed.
Yeah, and then they screamed, and then they chanted. And the freezing wasn't enough for the Torchwood team to quite key in on it. That's why I felt it was slower. We didn't get... There's the mystery initially, why is all of the children frozen, but the Torchwood team is oblivious to it. Gwen kind of is like, what's something weird's going on, and starts to investigate. And then, by the screaming, they're all, okay, we need to investigate this for sure.
I don't think it started any slower than any other Torchwood mystery, quite honestly. I mean, that it seemed very natural that Gwen happened to see the kids stop in the road, and she goes back to the hub and starts looking it up. And the first thing that comes up is traffic accidents, that there were X number of traffic accidents that happened because kids were standing in the middle of the road not moving. Jack and Ianto have the side mission of trying to find a new doctor, so they're not necessarily focused on that. But then when all the kids start screaming in unison, then yes, it becomes something that Torchwood cues into. So I didn't think it was... As an episode, I think this is an incredibly well-written episode. I think Russell T. Davies outdid himself on this one.
It's a great...
Because it gives you all of the pieces you need right off the bat. I thought it hit the ground and it took off and said, this is what we're going to talk about. And it gave you a little bit of misdirection with the doctor, who then turns on Jack at the end and gives you that great cliffhanger. That, he all of that happens, and
that's not even the cliffhanger of the episode.
Yeah, I mean,
of him shooting him,
and then the bomb, obviously. But it takes Torchwood all of a sudden into a very different direction than we've had before, because we have lost members of the team, so that almost wasn't unusual. We lost Susie, and Jack makes no bones about it.
Very beginning.
Yeah, he makes no bones about it that we lose people on this, and that's going to happen. But then, even the stability of the hub is taken away from us by the end of that episode. So we're really thrown for where are we at, and what are we doing? I think it's from top to bottom, it's tight, it's contained, and it's very, very well done.
I like the moments between, and it was a little hard to watch, the moments between Jack and Ianto, of Jack not wanting to recognize their relationship and why is everybody calling us a couple? Mm-hmm. They're obviously a couple.
Yeah.
It seems like a little slap in the face to Ianto throughout this entire episode that Jack won't recognize it.
I liked... what is scary to you guys? Is it the image of the kids standing in the street? Is it the image of the kids screaming in unison? Or is it the image of the kids chanting, "We are coming"? What to you was like the most striking of that?
Well, the "We are coming," I think.
I think so, too.
Because that nails home the outside control over these children. I mean, all of them stopped at once is creepy enough. The screaming is unnerving because they all seem to be in pain in unison. But the really sinking in of these kids are being controlled by an outside influence is what's I think the creepiest of all.
Well, and it's this episode, isn't it, that Is it this one that we get introduced to Clem?
Yes.
Was he with the screaming or was he with the chanting? I'm trying to remember now.
I don't think we saw him scream. I think we saw him. We
I
did see him
think he
chant.
was in the chanting and then passed out.
Well, we saw him freeze and then we saw him chant. But
yeah.
And hats off to the gentleman that played him, because of the scenes of him and Gwen in the, interrogation room, which is kind of trying to coax him out of this, and he's just broken. I mean, this guy's, and we don't know yet what's happened.
Yeah.
We just know that something bad has happened to this guy, and he is shattered.
Well, we had the flashback at the very beginning.
At the very beginning, we get the first time in '65 when they...
I cued into the fact that, this was that kid.
Yeah.
We don't know exactly what happened back then,
and we don't know why
we know this is that kid.
We just know there's that involvement.
Yeah.
And just whatever happened to him just broke him. And I thought he did an amazing job playing crazy, but not... I mean, it was a very sad crazy. It wasn't an over-the-top funny crazy. It wasn't a, wow, you're really nutsoid crazy. It was just a, dude, what the hell happened to you? I mean, just heartbreaking watching his scenes. And again, giving Gwen that moment to really... This is, of all the Torchwood, this is the one I like Eve Miles the best in.
I would agree. She is the best in this story.
This is what really made me come to appreciate her as a character. And I've been very critical of Gwen in reviews past, because I'm just not a big fan of her. But this one really kind of drove home
I think she's written
who she
differently.
Is. It almost felt that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They actually had a grasp of the character they wanted her to be in this story.
Maybe that's what it is. That maybe she wasn't quite there yet.
Yeah. And then we also got the reveal near the end, right before the bomb, of Gwen being pregnant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For real this time.
For real this time, yeah. Which obviously wasn't a surprise for me, considering I had seen Miracle Day.
Right.
Yeah.
So a lot of this was
a little out of order.
A lot of this episode for me was interesting in the setup for Miracle Day. Oh, that's why there's no hub. Oh, yeah, here's where we find out she's pregnant. I mean, there's a lot of those building blocks going into Miracle Day in this one episode.
It was funny, too. Mel and I rewatched it this weekend, and I didn't realize how much of it I'd forgotten. I mean, I was initially thinking, I'll just go off memory and I'll be okay. And then you talked about watching it, and you brought up a couple things when I briefly spoke with you earlier this week, and I thought, wow, maybe I do need to go back. So we went back and started watching it. It wasn't even anything big. You just kind of said, we're up to this point, and it kind of triggered something that maybe I'm not as solid on this as I think. And after the debacle that was reviewing Torchwood Season 2, I thought, you know what, I probably should go back and rewatch it. And there was so much of it that I'd forgotten. I mean, I remember the base plot, but I'd forgotten that the doctor turned on him and shot Jack. And both Mel and I went, oh! It was like watching it with completely fresh eyes, because there was so much. I'd forgotten that the hub blew up.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's a huge...
And that Jack was part of that.
Oh, he was the bomb.
That he was the bomb. and
Jack's the bomb.
I didn't gasp when the doctor shot Jack, because I've seen him recover from gunshot wounds.
Yeah.
When
it
he
wasn't so much
exploded,
that. It was just
I'm like, how is he going to come back from this?
And mad props for doing that, because the minute you establish, he's immortal, we all start geeking out over things like that. Well, what if you did this to him?
How would he come back from that?
How do you come back from that? Does it regenerate cells? I mean, it's how does that work? And they gave it to us. All right, here, we're going to blow him up. And then we get to day 2, and he's just a head, part of a head, and an arm, then he
reforms.
It was like,
and in immense pain during the entire thing. Well, anything else on day 1? Glenn, you've been kind of quiet.
Nope.
The one interesting bit is that
I'm with you on the fact that I think the pacing felt a little slow. I do agree with you that it's written well and it's confined.
It just feels like a setup for a bigger story.
A setup, and it's my least favorite of the episodes, because we're learning about what's going to be happening soon, what we're going to be dealing with, and to me, it was kind of slow. It was
weird.
It was a nice build, but it was a slow build, and I didn't think it.
See, I didn't think it had a slow build to it at all.
The problem
Miracle Day or some of
the problem is when you sit down and you know it's going to be 5 episodes, and you know it's going to be 5 episodes of one story. When the first episode starts out, and you're just getting all of the exhibition, you're getting all of the setup. You know you're not going to get a lot of payoff. And so the end of it is fantastic. I absolutely love the double cross. I absolutely love the bomb in his stomach and blowing the hub up. And I thought that was incredible. But I thought all of that leading up to that was just kind of set up for the story. And so it took a little while to get off the ground for me or get me excited about what was going to go on. But it was good. It's still a good episode.
One interesting...
Which I was never clear... I don't remember. Did they mention who this army was that put the bomb in Jack? Was that MI5 or was that somebody else? It wasn't UNIT.
No, it wasn't UNIT. I think it was just British.
I think just the government.
Just the government.
So the British version of CIA or...
The British version of the CIA is MI6, or MI5.
Whichever it is. Okay. So just British Army. I was just very confused of who they were the entire time.
Bad guys in boots.
Yeah.
They're wearing black. They must be bad. Okay.
There you go.
No.
Yeah, that was really it. That was all you needed.
Because I liked...
Another secret government organization. I don't know.
I liked that
didn't matter
main
to me.
leader.
I just knew that they were...
That woman, I liked
They
her
were there
throughout
to
the entire
shut
story.
up Jack, basically.
Yeah.
Keep
And
him
everybody
keep
else.
him out of the way. Well, yeah. To put Torchwood on ice.
Because there was that setup.
Well, because
also
they all become
with
fugitives
Frobisher.
because they have to go into hiding now that this has happened.
The stuff with Frobisher in his office of, this is happening. The 456, whatever this communication device is, has started. We got to take these people out so they don't talk about the previous incident.
Right.
And he is called Home Office Permanent Secretary.
Home Office.
John Frobisher.
Yeah.
Frobisher.
Who we've seen in Doctor Who before.
We have. Fires
The
Puppy.
actor, not the character.
The actor, yes, not the character.
Interesting side note is that as originally written and conceived, this would have had Martha Jones and Mickey Smith in it.
I wondered if the reference to the marriage was Mickey.
Yes.
I assumed it was.
Because this is set after...
This is set after
season
4.
Or season 4.
But before...
The specials.
Specials.
Right.
Okay.
And yeah, they were both
But she was with somebody else during season 4.
The doctor that she met at the end of...
3. Wasn't it?
Series 3.
Yeah. Okay. And then
But
she dumped him.
She winds up with Mickey.
Yeah, she winds up
Last
with Mickey.
of the Time Lords.
So
That's
I
what I was
assume
looking
that's
for.
who it was. But
It's the
had you
doctor
not
that she
seen that
meets
special?
that meets her on the shore at the end of Last of the Time, or at the beginning of the Last of the Time Lords.
You know that book that you read?
Oh, yeah.
That's
guy.
the doctor
Okay.
that she
That's the
ends up,
doctor she
hooking up with
I didn't
later.
realize that.
Because she mentions that they're an item in the Sontaran stratagem.
Oh, okay. But having not seen the specials, I would assume that the reference
She married
was to
him.
that doctor.
That's what I thought. In fact, I was quite surprised when that's what I had thought when they make the reference in this. And then suddenly when they show us her and Mickey in not Parting the Ways,
In the time.
Into Time, then I went, oh, she ended up hooking up with Mickey. So, which I was concerned. Although they end up they walk off together, don't they? At the end of Parting the Ways,
the three of them.
Journey's End.
The
At
two
the end
of
of
them
Journey's
and
End, yes.
Jack walk off together.
Right. So that kind of sets the stage for
It does.
this.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were supposed to be in it, but both Freema and Noel Clarke were unavailable at the time that they went into shooting. So that's why they're referenced. And the character of Lois was kind of created as a direct. This is going to be our Martha Jones for this particular.
I kind of got
I
that
like
feel
Lois
from
a
her.
lot.
I like
Lois
Lois a lot too,
Yeah.
and I kind of wish Lois had stuck around for
I thought
more.
so too.
Because I thought she was spunky, which I liked. She was not something that we had in Torchwood.
Yeah.
True.
Anything else on 2 or on 1?
Nope. Go to 2.
Okay, 2. The bomb explodes, blowing up Torchwood. Gwen escapes and goes on the run with husband Reese, with an army detachment under tough female Captain Johnson in pursuit. Decker gives Frobisher cryptic written plans for a mysterious edifice the aliens, the 456, once building, though not even the PM knows what it is. Lois, Frobisher's new temp, accidentally finds secret information on Torchwood in her computer and is curious, but Frobisher tells her Jack was the terrorist who caused the explosion. Gwen and Reese hide in a lorry bound for London, where she discloses her ... That's all it says. Fail, IMDb. Fail. Her pregnancy, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Da-na-na.
Aren't these on here?
No, they're not.
Believe it or not. It gives an overview.
It gives a
season
season overview. This is sort of the beginning of the soul crushing, in my opinion, because we have our grounding taken away from us, starting from here.
Yes.
There's no hub. There's no Jack until the end, and
You rip him out of the scene.
Yeah, you can feel the despair almost between Gwen and Ianto. The fact that Ianto
because this is
turns to his sister for help.
Yeah. This is the most lost they would have to have been.
Yeah.
Because not only do we not have Tosh and Owen from last time, from last series, now we no longer have our leader, Jack, and you probably feel so disconnected. They're split up. They're, having to be all secretive and in hiding, and you can tell that that's bothering Gwen.
Oh, yeah, and the stuff with Gwen and Reese hiding and being on the run was fantastic.
Yeah.
And then meeting up with Lois and all of that was really good.
And Kai Owen, who I have loved as Reese from moment one.
Me too.
This guy, I mean, he's
and
just...
this story, this whole season is when he kind of starts to get to be the badass. He gets to do stuff in this where he previously really didn't get to before.
And even though so much of it is the little things, because, I mean, he's average Joe. He's football and a beer at the pub with his mates. That's who Reese is. And he's so practical. She comes home, she wakes him up, get dressed, we've got to run for our lives, people are going to kill us. Okay. And so he kind of pads around the house, struggling to get ready, and the first thing he's got is that he's packing is a book. And she's like, "What are you doing? You can't bring a book. We don't have time for this, blah, 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 blah." So then they're on the run, and he goes, "Well, let me carry the bag." She's like, "Why? You're being chivalrous or something. What are you worried about?"
And that's after the pregnancy reveal. So she thinks almost that it's because she's pregnant.
And then his response is, "Well, you want your gun hand free, don't you?" And it's just like, oh, yeah, okay. I mean, just the practicality of the way his thought process works is so awesome. And then he does it again later when they meet with Lois in the diner. And he's complaining, "I'm hungry. We haven't had anything to eat. It's been days, and we're in London, and London sucks."
There was this truck we were going to get on. It was full of food. No, it was raw potatoes.
Yeah. You're not eating raw potatoes. I would eat raw potatoes. Just on and on and on. So then they meet with Lois in this diner, and he's like, "I don't want to be that guy, but we have a lot to talk about, and we haven't ordered, and it'll look suspicious. And we're starving." So he has found a way to justify the hunger with a real concern that you're right. It would look weird if you sat there for hours and hours and hours and didn't order anything.
I thought the gun hand comment was kind of cool because Reese has struggled with not knowing what Gwen was doing for the entire first season, and then finally getting sort of let in on it on the second season.
And not having his memory wiped.
Right, exactly. And sort of becoming kind of a surrogate to the group, and then...
Ancillary member.
Yeah, ancillary, there you go, ancillary member of the group. And then, in this one, you feel like Reese has sort of got the short end of this relationship because he's been lied to, he's been cheated on. Yeah. He's all this stuff. He doesn't know that, but all of this stuff that's been going on, and he really just wants to have a normal life. It was a huge statement for him to make that comment about, "Well, don't you want to have your gun?" Like, I totally understand what you do.
Yeah.
And I'm totally acceptable of it. I mean, I don't think it's totally acceptable, but enough to think of that.
I'm not happy about it. But
exactly.
Yeah.
And so that just spoke volumes for Reese's character. And if you would have asked me in that first season of Torchwood who wouldn't have been around and all of these characters, I'd have told you Reese. And boy, am I glad that he is all the way up until the fourth season.
I
because
know.
I love the guy.
He is so good.
Love the guy.
And the actor does such a good job portraying him, too.
Kai
He's
Owen is
fantastic.
He is just...
And I follow him on Twitter, and he's got the best tweets sometimes.
Oh, I didn't know he was on Twitter.
Kai Owens, I think.
Kai Owen. He is great. Now, Ianto's family, unfortunately...
are depressing.
Not so much great. Not so much with the...
Not very supportive.
Not very supportive, not very...
Well, and it seems like Ianto keeps them at arm's distance to begin with, anyways.
Yeah.
Well,
that's the impression you get in this one.
when you meet them, it's understandable.
Well, yeah,
It's
especially considering the brother-in-law.
Yeah.
The sister, maybe not so much, and they mentioned the issues with the dad.
I think it's because of the issues with the dad, and I think it's because of the brother-in-law is why.
Which, I'm sorry, throughout even this episode and into the next, I liked it, brother-in-law. He had so many great moments.
The brother-in-law became very good.
Because we get introduced to them in the first episode.
Right. And he's not likable.
He's picking on Ianto, and you don't like him.
Yeah.
And in this one, the sister goes to meet Ianto, and he creates a diversion of just picking a fight with these people spying on the family. And it's like, you may pick on Ianto, but you're doing what's best for your wife and her family.
Yeah. Well, and
that is admirable.
He's got a great arc where he starts off as this very dislikable character in the first time we see him, and he is picking on him, and he's mean and this. And then, as soon as Ianto shows up and the kids boost the car, and he's like, oh, it was triple lock. Yeah, that doesn't mean anything in this neighborhood. And he goes outside, and they've driven off with the Torchwood SUV. Which, okay, here's another element all of a sudden is stripped away from us. We don't have the SUV. I lost the car.
And Ianto kept trying to reference at the end before the explosion.
And Ianto's lost. He's like, I lost the car. And what's the first thing the brother-in-law says? Nah, don't worry about it. They come back around for a victory lap. And he's picking up bricks, and you're like, what are you going to do? And he hauls off and starts hucking bricks at the car. Clonk up against the side of the car as they drive by. Mooning them from the passenger side window.
Yeah.
Bit of a Cousin Eddie thing.
Yeah, he really is.
But then he goes from that moment where you get a big laugh out of him to the I'm creating a distraction for the sister to get away to
help
I'm
Ianto
bringing in all of the kids in the neighborhood to he's got
10
this
quid a kid.
He's got his own reason for doing it. But by the end he's a legitimate hero. He's
absolutely.
got a great arc. So it's funny with just the tiny little bits of dialogue that were given from Ianto in reference to his family. Like when he delivers the letter, meet me where Dad broke my leg, meet me where this, and we kind of get the impression that this is something that, despite the fact that Ianto's sexuality has never really been in question until now with his family, because he's had girlfriends and he said this.
He makes reference to it's not so much that I'm gay, it's somebody.
Torchwood for crying out loud.
It's not that it's men, it's one man.
Yeah, and that was very specific for him. It's not men, it's just Jack.
Yeah.
That's where his attention lies. But yet, the dialogue that we're given, it kind of gives the impression that for whatever reason, Dad was never really a fan of Ianto's and that maybe he was persecuted for it.
It almost sounded like it was an abusive father to both of them.
Yeah.
Because in that conversation, when he shows up the first time, it's like, I haven't seen you almost since Dad's funeral.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's so much bad there that he went and hid.
And one thing that we neglected to mention in day one is Jack's family.
Oh, yes. It's hinted at, but not entirely revealed.
Right, we're not entirely sure.
Well,
this woman and kid
she comes out and says, and this is the thing that I thought was very...
until episode 2.
This was the thing that I thought was very unfortunate, is that Ianto goes, we need a kid. We need to test a kid to find out what's going on. So Ianto resorts to going to his family to try and get close to the niece and nephew, and, I'll take them to McDonald's or something for their birthday, and blah, 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 blah. It's like, no, you're not. You're coming to get a kid. And Jack goes to his family to get a kid, which is like, really? Both of you had the same idea that you're just going to go home and nab a family member to test? That's very shallow, guys. Not cool.
But then we get the reveal
line when they're sitting there, and we're introduced to this woman, and the immediate, because we're dealing with Captain Jack, so the immediate thought is, oh, ex-lover. You know,
Right.
this is
I
somebody
think that's what you're
that's
intended to think.
But
yes.
then she says, "Dad," and was like,
Oh, yeah, that's
whoa.
right.
Oh, that's right.
What?
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Which
Because they have that whole conversation
entire
about,
time,
aren't you going to tell him that I'm his
They reference
grandfather?
the mother, too. And the entire time, I'm racking my brain thinking, trying to remember
Isn't
which
it in
episode.
series 1 where he's visiting the old lady? And
I think that
I
is-
sort of assumed that was the that was
I
her
looked
mom.
it up. I don't think it's the same person.
Oh, it's not.
It's not the
I-
same
I-
mom.
Okay.
Knowing Jack, I would be very surprised if it was
Knowing,
the same person.
knowing Jack, I'm surprised there aren't more of his kids out there.
Well, maybe there are, but
It's possible. And then, and then, knowing what I know from Miracle Day, how are they not at least half immortal? That's all I'm going to say. Considering the resolution of Miracle
yeah, I
Day.
haven't
Yeah,
seen the last 2 episodes. So. Yeah.
You can't base
I know.
Miracle Day suddenly throws into a whole new time continuum. Really,
Yeah.
it really changes some stuff fundamentally. I think, as opposed to Jack being a fixed point in time, which he reiterates here
Okay.
versus what happens there. So we'll talk about that.
Okay,
when we
we'll
get to it.
talk about that.
Spoilers.
Yeah,
But I like the fact I like the woman who they got to play his daughter, and the fact that they got someone slightly older than him. It really hammers home that immortality, slow aging aspect to it.
yeah. Well, and the fact that she says that, because he asks, when are you going to tell him that, or are you going to tell him that I'm his grandfather, not his uncle? And she's like, what? The fact that, your
Grandpa's younger than Dad
younger than
or
mom.
Mom.
I mean, how does that work? And, isn't that awkward and blah, blah, blah. It really, yeah. I mean, and I think, again, an amazing, especially as evidenced later in this series, some fantastic performances. I think she's strikingly attractive, too, which is, because unlike, like Lois, I mean, Lois is obviously meant to be the
hot girl.
poster child, the hot chick. I think Alice was really good looking.
I think so too.
And there was something about the way that played off with her relationship with Jack in a way that kind of really sold it. That you could see that she came from his genes or something. I don't know. But all of these guys have very... It's funny that we're dealing with... Of all of the family that Torchwood has, that Gwen and Reese are the most closest to normal that you can get.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's
Well,
really a statement.
I think the idea, though, of doing it that way is the fact that we're meant to associate with them the best, because we still, even in this series, are seeing the story through Gwen's eyes.
Right.
And so...
Because she was our introduction
Right,
to it.
and she's still our narrative. And I think that's the reason for that, is you have to keep them at least, 1 degree separated from us, so that we're not so separated from the rest of the team.
Yeah.
So.
And then we've got the many deaths of Captain Jack.
And the triumphant return.
I lost him.
Of him.
I lost count of how many times he was shot in this serial.
Oh.
It was several.
Yeah.
But then he was blown up. And so now his pieces regenerate, and the body bag is inflating, and just creepy. And they unzip it, and it's skeletal structure and gross and everything. And then, we chain him to the wall, and he continues to reform. And can you imagine
The pain?
the pain of
Yeah.
having
Which-
exposed, burned skin,
And
trying
he-
to regraft itself back together?
He tells
laying there?
Ianto in the next episode that he remembers.
He remembered, yeah. It's not just that it all
Everything.
went black; it's that he
Right.
felt it. Ugh.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that he's screaming at his jailers that let me out of here, I'm blah blah blah. And so we open the little porthole in the morning. She goes, "Well, I can't kill you, but I can detain you." And then they start dumping in concrete.
Yeah.
And it's like,
How are
leave
they-
the guy alone. It just, how do you get him out of that?
Isn't him just handcuffed to the wall enough?
Yeah, nope. We're going to make sure.
Well, they trying to keep him from talking. He was irritating him.
His screaming was really annoying.
So then how do we get him out of that? Well, I'll tell you how we get him out of that. Yanto's going to come and bust through
That
the
was
wall.
a
forklift.
fantastic. That's one of my favorite moments of the whole series.
We sneak in, and again, Lois has this great bit where we're going to put you in as the Undertaker's outfit, and Reese gets to drive because that's his thing. I drive the car, and so we get into the thing, and we're have another great moment where the guard's trying to come on to her, and Reese is like, "Aye, she's married," and she's giving him the knock it off motion, and a gun battle, and we're captured, and this is going to be bad. And then all of a sudden, boom, the entire wall. And I just, of all the unlikely escapes in the history of, we're going to sneak into a military installation, bust some guy out of jail, and then run off. A gigantic tractor carrying a block of cement that housed part of the building. Just, this was not the way to do it. I mean, it was awesome. But it was
awesome.
I mean, all I could think of was David Tennant going, "Worst rescue ever." So we get, I don't know, 5 minutes away from the base and then chuck him in a ravine.
And how did they know it was going to break when they chucked him into the ravine?
You drop something that heavy from that height, I think you're okay in assuming it's going to break open.
I didn't think it was that high, I guess.
Oh, it looked really high. I don't know, maybe it was the camera angle.
I didn't think it looked that.
It's insignificant. It broke. That was the important thing.
And then there's Jack. I mean, granted, he's dead at that point, but still, he got thrown off a cliff and woke up in a pile of rubble. How pissed is he at this point? I really wanted him to just come back. I want if this needed to be 6 episodes long, just so we could have one.
Naked too, wasn't he?
Yeah,
and
absolutely naked. Because when he came back from the explosion, he didn't have any clothes.
No clothes.
His clothes didn't come back.
And a great bit just showcasing who he is when Gwen's standing there trying to avert her eyes and hands him the coat that Reese gives her. She's like, "Hurry up, we've got to go get in the car." And he takes the coat and slings it over his shoulder and keeps walking.
Well, let's go.
He's covered in concrete dust and nothing else. But I really wanted this needed a 6th episode, one where Jack goes back to the military facility and extracts revenge on everybody who killed him in this. That brings us up to day 3. That's kind of the last light moment.
It really is.
It really
is,
yes. Day 3. With the Torchwood team reunited, they take up residence in one of their former haunts. This is the day that the aliens, known as the 456, has announced as their arrival. Gwen asks Lois Abiba to wear special contact lenses that will allow them to monitor what is happening. Home Office Permanent Secretary John Frobisher is assigned by the wily Prime Minister as the official go-between, thereby allowing him to keep his hands clean during this whole affair. This is not the first time the 456 have visited Earth, and Captain Jack has had dealings with them before. The 456 arrive as planned and announce what they have come for. 10% of all of the Earth's children.
Yeah. Come through a portal of fire into a lobster tank.
That's true.
I like that. That was realized really well, I thought.
I loved the 456. I didn't love what they did.
Yeah,
I love the design.
Yeah.
I love the
I kind of
fact
wish
that
we could have seen them a bit more.
No. I love the
I
fact
like
we
the
never saw
mystery
them.
of it. Yeah.
If they had... I didn't want that alien moment. The weakest point of the movie Alien is at the end of the movie when the thing stands up and suddenly you realize it's a guy in a rubber suit. It just shatters the 2 hours that you've been on before. And I kept worrying. They filled this tank with fog and gas and poison and stuff.
And
then it
shows
slam against the glass.
The Hitchcockian, just...
And
you don't
apparently
see
the
much
ooze
of
must be, it must dissolve, because I'm sure there's no window washer going in there at night to clean that stuff off. You know, they're not happening. Not in the environmental.
I ain't going in there.
So it must dissipate. But the thing's spitting slime and green ooze everywhere and sneezing on the glass. And then every now and then it rams up against it, and it's kind of got the weird scorpion tail head thing. And there's 3 of them. 3 heads or whatever they are.
Well, that's
it.
That's not
all
built
you get
until later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I loved that.
I did too.
loved every single
The
moment
aliens were
that they
very
didn't
well
show
realized.
it.
And guess what? They weren't.
Anthropomorphized?
That's right.
that you're aware of.
Yeah, you don't really know if they were or not.
But they weren't, because they didn't show us ones. So they could have easily...
Lack of evidence does not make evidence.
They could have easily gone there, and they didn't. And I loved that. It was what was so cool about that. But,
well, and Torchwood stealing to get what they need and setting up base at Torchwood 1.
Yeah.
Where Ianto used to work.
Yeah.
Was fantastic.
I thought that was cool.
And how they went about stealing everything. And then...
The look on Jack's face when he stole that guy's car. Just that he saw the opening, and he kind of started moving for it, and jumped in and drove off, and he just had this grin plastered on his face, like, yeah! Look at me, I got a convertible.
But the meat of this episode is when they meet back up with Lois, introduce the contact lenses, and then really get into the negotiations with the 456. Yeah. And this, out of any of these 5, if you could call any of them filler, this felt more like okay, we need to get certain pieces in position in order to continue the story.
I can kind of see that. I mean, I think...
Because not a lot happens in this.
Well...
They reset up their base. Gwen goes and rescues Clem, and then the developments with the 456.
This is one of those middle acts that gives you a false sense of something's going to happen, like a resolution is coming, even though you know that this is 5 episodes long.
Yeah.
You really feel like something's building here to be resolved.
And to me, it almost felt like a reveal of...
It fails.
Almost a build-up to, this is what it looks like.
Yeah.
And it doesn't deliver that.
Right.
That's what it feels like to me. We've been talking to this thing in the fog. At the end of this, we're going to see what this thing is. And we don't.
Oh, kind of like the alien baby in V. That was the middle part of, the two alien babies, I guess. The twins. Right, when then in the middle of the series?
V baby,
the V baby. That was kind of the turning point of the series.
Well, that was the problem. V-Baby was cool. Star Child was not.
Yeah, well, agreed.
But that's a thing.
Well, this was, I mean, because we kind of... It's almost like so much happened in episode 2 that we needed to take a step back and kind of hit the reset button a little bit. We needed the new hub. We needed to give Torchwood a way. Now that we've reunited the team, we need to give them a way to solve the mystery. And so, well, unfortunately, that means we've got to kind of go back to the drawing board. We need a hub. We need a base of operations. We need technology. We need to reboot the server and get to the software. And, oh, hey, look, we've got these cool contact lenses that do everything. And aren't they amazing? Yes, they are. They're very cool.
They are.
And then on the other side of that, you've got the 456 and the mystery, kind of deepening of what are these things. But then there's that subplot of all the political maneuvering that's going on, and who's going to be responsible, and who's to blame, and who's this, and what did they do when they were here before?
And can we keep that a secret?
And can we keep it a secret during these negotiations? And then Frobisher, and
because it's just me. I get the impression that it was just England that made contact with them in the 60s.
They
right?
come out and say that.
Yeah, okay. That's right.
Yeah, that they came in before. And
then it was only like 60-some children, right?
12.
That's right, it was. It was just a
really
handful.
small number.
And Clem was supposed to be one of them, and they ended up leaving him behind.
So they end up only getting 11.
Yeah.
Which, is a very chilling statement that the 456 make. We will take your children. I'm sorry, what? back that up a minute. What did you say?
What?
Is that bothering you?
No.
Okay. Sorry.
No, sorry. I had to reboot my computer.
This was kind of the linchpin episode that this was the final. This to me, I felt like more setup than episode 1.
Yeah, I would agree.
Okay.
No, I would totally agree. Now,
because this is the last domino that's being set up before we knock them all down.
Yes.
Okay.
I completely agree with this. However, whereas the first one was just like
there was more intrigue in this one.
Yeah, exactly. There was a taste of what we're setting up in the first one. This one is there's more intrigue, and so that's why this one was more. This is more of the I think what you felt in 1 in episode 1, that's what all the things you were feeling in episode 1 is what I felt in this one, because there was more intrigue, there was more, we're getting those last pieces in place, and this is where we're going to, like you said, push the dominoes over.
So we get to the, it's at the end of this one
that we get the Jack reveal.
Yes.
That
he was there.
And
he took
Clem's
them to the
freaking
light.
out.
Yeah.
Which, again, this is kind of...
I don't remember the flashback from episode 1, but I don't remember seeing his coat, or I probably would have keyed into it early.
He was in a regular uniform, wasn't he?
No, he wore his same outfit, but
and he was there with the children.
The coat was closed; it was buckled and.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
But you can still tell that it's him.
Well, but they shot it very cleverly. The pieces that you see in the very first,
it looks
segment,
more uniformy the way they shoot it.
It doesn't look like Jack. They don't show him; they just show the kids walking into the light and a figure standing there.
Yeah.
That you get from the long shot, bathed in light, so you can't see what it is. But that was kind of a huge reveal that, not only have they been here before, that they took children, and it was Jack.
Well, he's one of several soldiers, but he was the one that walked them up to
He was the one.
Yeah.
And then we get kind of more reveals later about what happened back then.
Right.
Anything else on episode 3? Or day 3, whatever?
I don't think day 3 really, I mean... One side note that what was his name? The tech guy.
Oh,
Creature.
Not Creature.
Creepy.
Mr. Decker.
Is this the one where Clem dies? Did Clem die in this one, or was it 4?
That's 4.
Oh, okay. I'm getting ahead of myself.
That's a lot of deaths.
A lot of death in 4.
Okay. Sorry.
Decker, who I've been monitoring the frequencies, and here's the instructions on how to build the tank, and then the tank's built, and then he walks up to it and just kind of stands there in awe-filled reverence, like he's worshiping this thing. And then every time they come to Tame's house, and he's the guy that kind of locks them from the elevator into the room, and he's got this, let's go see what we've got today look. What is wrong with this guy?
I thought the same thing.
Because whereas Clem played broken crazy, this guy just came across as weird crazy.
BS crazy.
There was something wrong with the way this guy's brain was wired. And every time he was on screen, it was like, what is your deal?
I would agree.
Damaged people. So.
Well, and there's also a nice, I thought, setup way back when Unit shows up. And then he kind of becomes more a figurehead in later episodes, and then the U.S. shows up to kind of be there during negotiations.
Right.
I liked all those nice little touches of the fact that this is Torchwood, but aside from Martha, we're bringing another Unit soldier in.
Yeah.
I liked that.
I did too. It kept it very grounded, I think, despite the
darkness and everything.
Really dark, overwhelming story arc, that it's still set in the same universe. That we've still got these touches of, the Unit and the Torchwood kind of butting heads over who should have been involved in this, and claiming jurisdiction or whatever.
Right.
I liked all of that.
Anything else on? Okay. Let's go on to day 4. Now that they know what the 456 wants, the government has to decide what they will do.
Oh, we didn't say what they wanted. They wanted, at this point, 10% of the
10% of the children.
Or they'll start killing.
Or they'll annihilate everybody.
Yeah.
That's right.
They seem quite prepared to accommodate their demands, but unaware that Torchwood has been recording the entire meeting via Lois Habiba's special contact lenses.
Lois Habiba.
They deliver an ultimatum to the PM, who is under the thumb of an American general, resulting in Captain Jack and Ianto gaining access to Tame's house. Captain Jack is determined to make amends for the choices he made when the 456 visited 1965.
Isn't it Tim's house?
Thames House?
Thames?
It's Thames. It's like the river, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thames House.
Tim's house. Which sounds weird because it sounds like some guy named Tim has a house. And go ahead.
Where are we going? Tim's house.
Tim's house.
Nothing exciting ever happened there.
And he flatly refuses to meet the 456's demands. The aliens' response is swift and deadly. There's little choice now but to give in to their demands. For John Frobisher, however, the choice he has presented leads him to his own definitive solution to the situation.
Dun, dun, dun! Day 4, hands down, best... probably the best hour of TV ever written.
It's one of the best of this season.
I would
Absolutely.
agree.
Yeah.
It's just... Okay. So, this one is very much...
This is the soul crushing.
This is the soul crushing. This is the political machination at work.
Which is fascinating to watch.
And scary.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And very much in vein with, yep, that's pretty much how it would have gone down had this problem been presented. I mean...
And Sarah and I were watching this together, and I was like, I paused it and asked her, how do you think America would have done this? And she said the exact same way.
So, here's the deal. We've got aliens. They're demanding 10% of the Earth's children in tribute. Or they will annihilate everybody. And so these politicians... First of all, there's this great little bit between... This power struggle going on between the U.S. and the... Well, why did they choose England? And, how did this happen? And you guys have... we want claim to this and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, hey, they chose us. We can't say anything about it.
And I believe also the reveal of that the 456 have children hooked up to them. Isn't that this episode?
Yeah, because they ask, what do you want the children for?
And they show.
And they show that they are basically hardwired into the
feeding off of them.
body. That, they don't experience any pain, and they live forever.
We don't know. We don't know why yet.
Yeah, we don't know
the next
why,
episode.
Until the end of it. But, so yeah, we're gonna take these children. We're gonna hardwire them into these alien bodies, and they'll live forever in some sort of blank zombie-like state.
Vegetative state.
Yeah.
I thought it was cool that for a change in the Doctor Who Torchwood universe, the U.S. was not represented as an evil... I don't want to say evil, but...
but they still come across as the big brother bully because they're why do you...
We do.
Why is it here and we should be in control of this and we should be in control of this situation? It's still a British show saying, here's... Big bully U.S. Steps in and wants to control everything.
And what they were fighting for, though,
which is probably true.
I don't know.
Yeah.
What they fought for was the fact that it should have been a unilateral. It shouldn't have been something that the UK stepped in and said, we're going to take care of this and did yourselves. It should have been something that everybody was brought in on and that we had the ability to make a United Nations kind of feel for it. But, and that I thought was refreshing because it wasn't, we've seen glimpses of it where the U.S. is kind of painted as that we've got the military might and we're going to use it all the time kind of people. So for us to come in and argue, no, this should have been up for everybody's grabs, that was kind of cool. Now, we did turn into Big Brother then because once it was revealed that the UK kind of screwed it up, we're like, okay, we're taking over this operation.
Situation, yeah.
And it's like, there we are. That's our familiar ammo right there. So we got that.
Oh, that's us.
So now, so we go back to the children. We 10% of the Earth's children. And
how are they going to determine this?
How do you determine?
Well, they first go with, okay, we've got this many orphans, we'll give
them 60. See if that.
Will that work? No.
10%.
And they made it clear by the fact that they made the children chant again of the percents of each country.
That was in the last episode.
No,
that was in this one.
That was in 4?
That was in 4.
That was in 4.
Okay.
4's got all the big...
I thought it was at the end of the 3rd. Okay, go ahead. You guys remember better than I do because you guys have watched more recently.
So we've got this, and this is monstrous. That's the only word I can use to describe the decision making here. Okay, so the one lady,
it's monstrous, but part of me sees it as logical.
Yeah, that's the problem.
That's the problem with this.
That's the problem with it. Is
it makes you see their logic in their decision of who to choose.
They're going through trying to come up
sense.
with something, and like, okay, we do a lottery, we do random picking, we do alphabetical, we do this. I mean, how do we come up with a system? And the one woman comes up with, all right, nobody else wants to say it, I'll say it.
It's the lowest achieving.
The lowest achieving.
The ones that won't contribute to society.
They're not
the ones that are
society.
likely to be criminals.
You know, okay, what if we pulled these people? And everybody looks at each other and decides, if we have to do it, that's the way to do it. And I sat there.
There's no good way to do this.
The first time I watched
begin
this,
with.
I sat there in horror, dumbstruck silence that somebody was gutsy enough to say it, and that somebody was gutsy enough to write it. I mean, this is one of those epic moments in science fiction when they present an idea that's this powerful. What do you do?
It's always one of those things where they present a percentage that has to go off. In the back of my head, it's always like, it wouldn't be random. It would be the lowest income people that would go off. And the fact that they actually admitted it gives so much integrity to Torchwood.
Yeah. It's... And this is the thing. We get the flashback to Jack and the explanation to his team about what happened. And that they were contacted by these aliens, and that I gave up 12, under orders, 12 children.
Right. 12 orphan children.
12 orphan children, which in and of itself is monstrous.
But, quote unquote, wouldn't be missed.
Wouldn't be missed. We give up 12 kids, and we get a cure to a disease that winds up saving 10% of the Earth's population.
But the ironic thing is, it's the aliens that would have unleashed this, which I got that impression to begin with. The aliens would have unleashed this new flu on the planet if they didn't get 12.
No, well, because they gave them the antivirus before it was just something that their models predicted this was going to happen.
Okay, maybe that's right.
But I agree with you that it's a possibility that maybe the 456 would have engineered it to get what they wanted anyway.
Or set that virus into place in order to demand these. Especially considering later what happens.
I think that's a very likely possibility. Now, think about that number for just a minute. The Master takes over the Earth and orders the Troclophane to kill 10% of the Earth's population. And we're talking millions of deaths.
Yeah. And that's 10% of the population, not 10% of the children.
Right. Well, but that's just it. We give up 12 kids, and we save millions by order of this vaccine.
Billions.
We say billions. We order the vaccine because of the 10%. Okay?
Right.
That's a pretty good deal. I mean, I hate to be the guy that says that.
That 12 people for billions? The needs of the many.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of those counterbalance scales. Could I have made that decision? No. But at the same time, when you put those kind of numbers out there...
I can't judge the person who does that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So now, we are given a very similar 10% of the children
but it's
in exchange for the safety of the entire planet, of billions of people on this Earth. And how do we come up with that? It's a tough episode to watch. It's a tough episode
it's tough to see.
It's tough to look at and think about. And
I think in both of those situations, whether it's 12 kids for 1 million people or 1 billion people or 1 trillion people, I totally disagree with the decision. You fight it. You figure out another way. You don't do it. And then in this situation, and this is the Torchwood team's idea, is the fact that you don't do it.
Which
you fight it. You go to war.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, I understand that the consequences ends up being bad, and they still feel like they're hinging time. But there is no time in this entire series that I think any time that anybody thinks giving children up for a greater cause is worth it. And I never agree with that in this entire series, ever. I never sided on that side of, well, that's logical. I think that's the way to go. Never, ever did I think that once. The whole time I kept saying, and maybe it's because I have children, but what? No,
I was going to ask if the father aspect.
The side I kept coming down on was, no, that would never, ever be a choice for me. I would never, ever, ever give up mine or anyone's children. I would find another way, or I'd fight them to the death. I'd rather go to death myself than give up children. That's absolutely a horrid, horrid thing for anybody to ever do.
Yeah.
And that's why I think this is such an incredible story, because it makes you think about those kind of things. But on the flip side of that, every time they went to that point of, well, here's the logic in this, here's how you do it, here's what we need to do, this is for the better good. Every time they did that, I abhorred anybody that talked about that. And that's why I was so impressed with the Torchwood team. That was never the case. I mean, even though Jack, he was remorseful for doing it the first time, and so that was even the Well, I'm getting ahead of myself, but even the resolution of this was. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no.
I hear you guys just talking back. That's why I've been so quiet, because I hear you guys talking back and forth about how the logics of this, and you understand it. Don't get me wrong. I know what you're saying. There's never a moment that I ever thought in it. Yeah, no, I'm just saying. There was never a moment that I went, that's probably makes more sense. No, it never made sense.
In a completely hypothetical situation.
But I can see people doing that.
Oh, yeah. But in a completely hypothetical situation where we didn't have a Torchwood to pull up something that's going to fight them, that's going to win. If we're given the ultimatum tomorrow in the current real-world situation that we're in, you can do this or die.
You take death.
You still okay? I'm just curious. I don't, because I agree.
In a real world, I absolutely would. Yes.
Yeah, I 100% agree. But I think it's so, because Mel and I spent a lot of time talking about this, and I asked her, I was like, you're a mom. I mean, what do you do in this situation? And she was the first person to say, I don't agree with it. I don't like it. I understand where they're going. I understand where their logic and their reasoning is. And she says, hell, maybe they should have gone one step further. What about kids that are, in hospitals dying of leukemia and that are never going to get the opportunity to have a full life? Maybe you call those people and give them up. And I looked at her and went, what? Coming out of you? And she flat out said, I'm well aware that if this scenario ever presented itself, my kids would be one of the ones that, because they're lower income or that they'd be in that lottery, that they would be snagged and taken. And she says, that's what, I would die to protect them. But I totally get where this thought process was going. And it was just, it's so mind-numbing to watch the process unfold that they're trying to justify it.
And the fact that they're so realistic on how they wrote it.
Yeah.
That they're taking the lower income. And that's exactly how it would happen.
Well, not in the sense that lower income, but definitely less influential.
In America, this is where No Child Left Behind would come in.
Yeah, agreed.
Those schools that were underachieving, that didn't reach No Child Left Behind, would be part of the 10%.
Maybe that's why they implemented No Child Left Behind, too. In case there's a situation like this ever. Right?
George W. Bush saw Torchwood Children of Earth.
Oh, that came before this. Well, No Child Left Behind happened before this.
I'm sure. I wonder if RTD got the idea of their resolution, quote unquote, to the issue by No Child Left Behind.
Oh, I don't think so.
I don't think we have that level of import on the world stage. It's a horrible, horrible policy anyway. But
now they're allowing exemptions. So.
Well, yeah. Anyway, we won't go there. The other interesting thing is the Yates character, the bald gentleman, who was kind of trying to, as he put it, if ever anything had to be spun, this is it. And he was talking about maybe a reduction in the worldwide population is a good thing. I mean, they're pulling every trick.
They're doing everything they can.
I kept looking at this guy going, God, this guy looks familiar. Where do I know this guy from? He looks so familiar to me. And I had to look him up, and then it dawned on me that that's Nick Briggs.
Yeah.
And I went, oh, that's why he looks familiar. I met him. And I pointed it out to Mel, and she was like, "Oh my God, he's lost a lot of weight since then." So, I just, my brain hurts going back and reliving everything that they threw at us.
And then we get the gut wrench of the entire season of Ianto's death.
Death of Ianto.
Yeah.
Which
because we haven't had our hearts ripped out of our chests and stomped on enough.
Jack died again too.
Yeah.
And part of me, Ianto died a hero regardless. Knowing Ianto was going, I imagined a slightly more heroic departure for him.
Say his name.
Yanto.
I hear you say Ianto.
That's because
It's trying to throw the I in.
And I keep thinking, it's not a Ianto,
It's Yanto.
right? It's Yanto.
It's Yanto.
Yeah,
Yanto.
it's Yanto. Okay.
But
I'm just making sure. I wasn't making fun of you. You kept doing
It's
it.
actually Ian too.
You had me
Ian
make
too.
you had me second guessing whether I was saying it right. Wait a minute.
Well, it almost sounded like Jack would say Yanto, and Gwen would say Ianto.
Yeah, that's just the Cardiff.
It's the accent. It's totally the accent.
That's the Welsh in her.
Yeah.
No, it's he's pronouncing Yanto the way I pronounce Darlac. And I keep wanting to throw extra letters in there.
Darlac.
When I first saw Torchwood, I thought it was Yanto with a Y.
No, I thought it was too.
I
I would
yeah,
agree with
that
you
was how
because
that was.
that's how they always said it was Yanto.
Yeah. No, poor
But
Yanto.
I was so sad to see him go, but felt he should have had a more heroic departure.
I'll agree with that.
From going from the coffee boy to where he ends up dying from a virus.
Well, it's not even the virus that bothered me. It was the fact that
The goodbye with Jack was heart-wrenching. Absolutely heart-wrenching. And Yanto getting to tell Jack that he loves him. And Jack kissing him as he dies was absolutely heart-wrenching. But the cause of death, I just felt a little flat.
it wasn't even so much that it was a virus. That was, in a way, nice because it gave them the opportunity for that
Goodbye. Yeah.
It was the fact that we've set all of this up, and we've gone through all of these hoops and set up all these dominoes that have started to fall. And the great Torchwood plan, we had the infiltration, we had the bit with the contact lenses, we have this blackmail scheme, and we get all of that to culminate in
everyone has their part to play.
busting into a room with a pair of guns to shoot open a sealed container that's obviously not regular glass.
Right.
Why
And it
didn't
was
they
like,
go over
what?
to the door?
Yeah, go open the airlock or something. This was the plan, guns blazing. I mean,
And as soon as the two of them went off, Sarah said, "This is not going to be good for Yanto.
yeah,
This could not end well." And it didn't.
and it didn't.
Bold move, though. Bold move.
Oh, very, very much in Torchwood's MO.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it is. It's just, and maybe the fact that their bold move amounted to nothing. Nothing was resolved by his death. I felt cheated too. If Yanto's gonna go out, he should be a hero like he is, and it should mean more than a failed attempt.
Yeah.
And that's what this amounted to. It was a failed attempt to defeat the 456. So I felt cheated by his death.
It really drove home the when Jack's arguing that we need to, an injury to one of us is an injury to all of us, and he's being philosophical, and Yanto's like, "You're not getting the kids, period." And the 456 almost seemed confused by this.
A little bit.
You capitulated before. Yeah, well, we're not going to this time. But you capitulated before.
They repeated.
I mean, they said it over
Yeah.
and over and over again. That well, yeah, but we know how this works. We're
not going to this time.
You're going to cave, And then
which is almost it gave the 456 less of an ominous threat and more of a bully.
Yeah.
Well, we came back because we know you're going to give us what we need.
And I think it was somewhere in this episode that Gwen asked Jack, she said, so it was a protection racket and you paid off? I mean, that's essentially what it was. And it almost makes you wonder the way all of the political stuff had been set up prior to this is, the 456 had presented this as, well, you're going to give us 10% of the kids or else we'll obliterate your planet. And the way the political maneuvering was going on, it almost felt like somebody should have come back and said, okay, we're going to give you the kids. What do we get in exchange?
Yeah.
I mean, it really felt like they should have bargained.
Yeah. No.
And like the one woman says, what are we haggling now for,
other than the 80 kids or 60 kids or whatever it was.
I mean, it almost felt like they should have said, well, okay, now if we throw in a fusion reactor that'll never, you've got power forever. Oh, well, yeah, now we can put some spin on that. I don't know, just the whole thing.
Other than survival.
The first time I watched this, I got very angry.
Because survival's not enough.
Yeah, survival wasn't enough. The first time I watched this, I got very angry that Jack folded. They announced the virus goes, and he's just given this big impassioned speech about, I will lead every person on this planet into battle against you to protect the kids. And that's a very Jack moment. Oh, there's a virus, and Ianto's got it. And he's, okay, I take it back. And I got very angry with him for being so wishy-washy on that. The second time watching it,
I got the impression
I was
that
much more in tune with the Ianto moment.
Sure.
And so I was a little
more
okay
with Jack
it.
didn't say it, I think Jack did love Ianto.
Oh, I agree.
And that's why I thought he took it back.
The reason he was standoffish about the couple thing, I think, was revealed when they talked about the fact that, you'll watch me grow old and die.
Right.
And,
yeah.
That was driven home with the fact that he's got a daughter that's going to out, age him. And,
I mean, Jack just can't have that kind of level of connectivity. So.
Well, I mean, he becomes the face of Bo.
I don't see the very hardcore fan base that's so upset over the loss of Ianto that they refuse to acknowledge it. That they're still upset over it.
Yeah, I guess at Galley 3 years ago, they had a discussion panel about deaths in Torthruid, and it escalated into the death of Ianto. Particularly, and I guess one impassioned guest of the convention actually ended up getting walked out very calmly by one of the panelists, as a matter of fact. It might have been Nicholas Briggs. Walked him out to calm him down because they were really afraid of him escalating to a point where he might get violent or unpredictable or whatever. And they talked him down, and they had a good talk, and everything was okay. But when I listened to the reports of that, I thought, wow, some people just get really passionate about
really attached to the characters.
A fictional show, a fictional character.
And, I mean, there's a memorial wall.
Yeah.
The Torchwood hub, the downstairs part of it, that's I don't know, whatever it is, the fish office.
The entrance?
The entrance. After this aired, it looked like 9/11. There were pictures and postcards and love you notes and everything posted all over this wall, and flowers in memoriam to Ianto Jones. And it was like, fictional characters.
I love Ianto, but not that much.
Yeah. They did
I wouldn't even go that far for a lost character.
They did a Children Need special.
Rightfully so.
And there's a fan group called...
That's twice you've shown me. That's twice you've shown me that finger tonight, Keith.
You keep pushing the right buttons.
Why do you encourage it? We don't talk about that show anymore. We're done. They did a children need special, and there's a group called Save Ianto Jones that's trying to get him brought back. They want, because it's science fiction, it's time travel.
It would cheapen him.
Well, that's what Russell T Davies has said.
Yeah.
It would cheapen
him, and it would cheapen this serial.
I don't like his death, but it would cheapen the character.
Well, they teamed up and donated some insane amount of money, like $10,000, to Children in Need, because they're all fans of Let's Bring Ianto Back.
Well, at least that money's going to good things.
They're no better than the people in this show.
I mean, it's going to a good cause, but so
that's true.
And I agree with Russell. As much as I didn't like it, I think it would cheapen Ianto's character, and I think it would cheapen
the
Children
memory.
of Earth. I think it would unravel this story.
Yeah,
if that
it absolutely would.
Anyway, so they come up with an idea of how to stop the 4, 5, 6.
Let's go to day 5. Yanto is dead, whilst Alice... I love the fact that IMDb
Yanto's
uses
dead?
whilst.
Whilst.
Alice and her son Stephen are released. Jack and Lois are arrested. And Reese gives up the tape of the cabinet meeting. UN Colonel Oduya discovers the sinister link between the aliens and the Scots children who disappeared. The PM appears on television announcing that the next day all British children will be inoculated. The cover for their abduction and delivery to the aliens. Gwen and Reese return to Wales, hiding Yanto's nephews and nieces and their friends as the military abduct lower-class kids from the streets. Ellis persuades Mr. Johnson to release Jack, who uses desperate measures to save the children, leaving him guilt-ridden. As a consequence, the future of Torchwood is in jeopardy.
You want to handle this one?
Handle what one?
This one?
This dun-dun-dun?
Oh, no, go ahead.
I'm curious to see what you'd give it.
Oh, it's dun, dun, dun!
Interesting.
What was
Okay.
it? Well, this was the most incredible episode for me. I thought 4 was intense, but this one was like...
The resolution of this, to me, felt too easy.
See,
Yeah,
I have
okay,
heard
wait.
a lot of people
Why
say
didn't
that.
they just go reverse the polarity of the neutron flow from the beginning?
That's
I have
exactly what they
heard a
did. They
lot
reversed the polarity.
I've heard a lot of people say that wow, that was just too simple of an ending. Did you see it coming?
No.
I didn't. But
Then
then
it was
after-
not a simple ending because
And the
if,
way they
if
did
I
it.
would have guessed it, if I would have guessed it halfway through there, or said why aren't they doing this? Why haven't they thought? Then yeah, I'd have said, oh, that was a simple. It was so mind-blowingly simple.
I guess
What was brilliant about this episode. It was like, oh yeah, they can.
To me, why wasn't that Torchwood's plan to begin
Not
with?
to
They're
mention,
smarter.
not
They're
to
smarter
mention
than
when
that.
this is where we finally find out what the children are doing for the.
Yeah.
They're
That's-
recreational drugs.
At the very
That's
beginning.
all
That
it is.
was a brilliant reveal.
And when that just pisses you off. That pisses you off worse than anything. That pissed
Yes,
me off worse.
absolutely.
Than, I mean, it's not even like at the base of being. They're
They don't need them to
feeding off of
survive.
them or needing to survive, but it's just that.
They make
it's
us feel
LSD
good.
for them.
They specifically said the hit.
Oh my god, that pissed me off so bad.
And the unit officer says, "You're shooting up our children."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That I thought was brilliant.
it was brilliant. Reversing the polarity of the neutron flow, I thought be so simple,
But
and never did I figure that out. And when they went, it was
I
one
never
of those.
figured it out, but then
Facepalm.
well, that's the thing.
But that's the brilliance.
3
of it.
seasons
It's
in,
like,
Torchwood should be smarter than that.
I think where it now I agree that I thought the concept was a simplistic. Really, that's all you've got to come up with. The execution
yes,
of
that's,
it
and that's what makes it more
is
powerful too.
way
yeah.
different. That's
Which-
apples and oranges.
And Sarah said, after seeing the last episode, she doesn't know if she can look at Captain Jack the same way again. She doesn't know if she can actually like Captain Jack anymore because of what he did. Sacrificing his grandson in order to defeat the 456. And I agree with her.
This
And to an extent, I mean, Jack agrees with her to an extent,
Yeah.
considering the end of he doesn't say it, but he pretty much lays out there, I've lost any humanity I had.
That's just it. This was the punch in the gut for me with Captain Jack because, I've always said I hate Torchwood Captain Jack. I love Doctor Who Captain
Yes.
Jack. And I've had this love-hate relationship with Captain Jack. This was the punch in the gut for me because this
The
was
final
the
blow.
absolute furthest thing from Doctor Who Captain Jack. This is the absolute farthest thing from what Stephen Moffat created as a character.
And I could always...
And That I absolutely hate Russell T. Davies for. That's the one thing that I hate about Russell T. Davies was where we went with this.
Before this episode...
Again, I will go back and say, brilliant television. It's still some of the best television because... And this is the exact reason why. Because this series... This 5-part series is such a roller coaster of emotions for me. And I just absolutely hated things in this and absolutely love things in it, and that's what makes it such a great piece of television.
Jack at the end of this.
Almost. I do hate Jack at the end of this. I hate him.
And
that's why it took me a long time. Remember, I was kind of lamenting going into Miracle Day after this because, number one, I already hated Captain Jack. But number two, I didn't know where they could go beyond this.
Yeah.
But anyway, sorry. That's part of the reason I haven't finished it either.
I could write away the difference between Captain Jack and Torchwood and Captain Jack and Doctor Who somewhat in the fact of it's been how many hundred years of years.
Well, obviously, and we talked about that when we reviewed the first season of Torchwood.
And that's how I can write but this is so much more of a departure from even Torchwood Captain Jack.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
It's not in character at all. I'm sorry, he would not have sacrificed his own grandson to save millions of children. He would have found another way, whatever it took.
Yeah, it makes it pretty incredible, though. I mean, it makes it
very,
incredible,
very
incredible, strong,
and heartbreaking
story.
But I don't think it's in character, even in Torchwood.
It's funny that it comes down to Jack to make the same choice that essentially the political leaders were going to make on a slightly larger scale, but
a much bigger scale.
Yes, but
certainly more personal.
Yeah,
but a more personal. Yeah, absolutely.
Do you think? I don't know. I can't justify or defend his decision. I'm right there with you guys that I hate him for doing it. Do you think maybe Jack was hoping that there was an element of immortality that maybe had passed on and that there would be kind of a miracle
if they had? Well, here's
Spoilers.
the thing. Here's the
That's
thing.
the problem.
Here's
Spoilers.
the thing. Had they conveyed that in the episode, that he had this glimmer of hope, then I could have...
That was the glimmer of hope I had.
I could have forgiven him a bit. But by not putting that out there, I can't justify that as a means, no. So,
and it doesn't help that Decker's still around. Giving his, that kid's going to fry. Really? Do we need Creepy Boy here for this? Why hasn't he been offed?
That line let us know the severity of what Stephen was going into.
Another powerful moment in this that we've skipped over is when Frobisher's told that his kids have to be selected.
Now, Frobisher has spent the entire saga being very unlikable because he's the guy that's kind of been put in charge of this. And at every turn, we're given
the PM wants hands off.
We're given these little glimmers that maybe he's not such a bad guy. Maybe he's just a public servant forced into this very thing. But we see his home life, and the reactions we get from the kids when he's kissing them goodbye, and they're like, "Oh, we must be in trouble because this is happening."
It gives you very Wasp feelings.
Yeah, you're very not around a whole lot. And the wife and the conversations that he has with her about, don't give me this BS because you're never like this, Okay, so he's not a family man at all, apparently.
Right.
He's very much devoted to the job, but at what cost? And then when Lois lies to the, I can't remember her name, but to the big secretary about, well, I have to go with you to Tim's house. He asked for me. And she kind of gives him that look. She gives her that look and says, "You're not the first.
Yes.
Don't think that you're the first." Which implies, first of all, that they had something going on,
right?
But that then there have been others since her.
Right.
It's like, wow, you are an unlikable character. There's just they've set it up for you to be unlikable, and then every time you try and get to a point where maybe you're not so bad, you throw something else at me that just goes, "No, I don't like you."
Another reason why this is brilliant television.
Yeah, absolutely. So now we get to the end, and the PM tells him, "Your kids have to go through this."
I would have
Do you
called
feel sorry for him at that point?
crap on this prime minister and exposed everything if I were him, because they said
I thought that's
at
where they're
that
going
table
with it, too, to be honest with you.
that everybody around the table, he was sitting at the table. He should have been part of that, which obviously makes it more gut-wrenching. And then what he does, almost more... I don't know if I would have done anything different if I were him.
I don't know.
Would you have let your kids go off to that? Or would you have, quote-unquote, put them out of misery?
I have no idea how I would...
It's one of those things that you could never know what you would do until you were in the situation.
Yeah.
It's very similar to...
my choice would have been to take the kids and run.
Well...
I'm sorry. Death of children is never an option. I'm sorry. That is never an option.
I'd have taken the PM with me.
Yeah.
No. We're
hostage.
We're going to go see some.
No, I'd have exposed it. I've done everything I could. I just,
That was when, and again, Jack, I think, kind of set everything in motion when they're sitting there with Frobisher, and he says, Gwen's threatening, do we go public or what? And he says, the whole world's going to hell. What does it matter if it goes a day early? And Jack agrees with him. And it's just like... So again, we've eliminated Yanto's death from being something noble and a heroic death. Not only was it futile because your grand plan was to barge in with a bunch of guns, but you based all of that on this blackmail scheme with the shades. And now you're giving up that card too. I just... And Frobisher called it in one of the earlier episodes when he was on the phone with him. He goes, well, how about I march in there and get your wife and kids? And Frobisher says, you won't because you're a better man than I am. Oh, darn it. And you just...
Which one of our Gwen's speech, her doctor speech that Phil talked about, such a good moral compass for this entire season.
The actual
that
speech,
the doctor would turn around in shame.
Yeah, the actual speech reads, there's one thing I always wanted to ask Jack. Back in the old days, I wanted to know about that doctor of his, the man who appears out of nowhere and saves the world. Except sometimes he doesn't. All those times in history where there was no sign of him, I wanted to know why not. But I don't need to ask anymore. I know the answer now. Sometimes the doctor must look at this planet and turn away in shame. And that sums up Children of Earth right there. I would agree. And really very conveniently kind of explains why the Doctor isn't there. Because this is one of those stories that there have been some people that have kind of asked, does Torchwood still fit in the Doctor Who universe? Because it's gotten bigger and bigger and bigger with its storytelling. And Miracle Day is another indication of that. But this is kind of...
The fix for
that, really. I mean, it's retcon, but it's there. There's a very interesting article that I found on, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, Pajiba. It's PAJIBA.com, which is a TV review site. And Stephen Lloyd Wilson on his review of Children of Earth. And he comes up with a very interesting kicker here for the end of this. Let's see, where did it go here? Sacrifice is very distinct from expendability. Expendability means your blood will be taken to pour on the altar. Sacrifice means that you willfully cut your own flesh. 9 times out of 10, it might be the same result with different motivation. But motivation is the only thing that matters in a moral calculus. Sometimes 30 million is not a smaller number than 7 billion. You can pile corpses hip deep around an altar, and it's still not a sacrifice until you cut your own heart out. And that's what Jack and Frobisher do in the end. Jack continues to grow as a character, and by the end of this series, his story begins to echo the story of the Doctor. He doesn't die, he regenerates. He has sacrificed everything he ever loved in order to save his people. And finally, at the end, He runs away into space and time rather than to stay and build. And I had never thought about that until I read this earlier today, and it kind of went, whoa. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's really a deep, insightful it's a deep insight into Jack's character that I hadn't thought of.
That's true.
I really liked that, and it kind of softened the blow of him running away, a little bit. I still don't like it. But
I completely understood why he ran away, even just watching it. That he, even 6 months later, traveled the Earth.
That's just it. He'd already tried to run away from it on Earth.
And
that wasn't far enough.
It wasn't far enough.
Yeah.
Just the day-to-day realizations of it.
Which makes the end of time make a lot more sense.
Yeah, now you finally get the reference that we were all concerned about.
All right, let's talk about...
part of me wonders what Sarah Jane was doing throughout all of this. It popped in my mind throughout the entire thing.
Your mind wanders a lot, Keith.
She was on holiday in Spain.
Yeah. Apparently.
She took Luke with her.
Well, let's talk about happier things. What's on the schedule, Sean?
Schedule! Next week's Friday Night Who, we're jumping into the Matt Smith era with The Time of Angels and Flesh and Stone. Yay. So for all of you that have been looking for an excuse to join us, but you only have new Who, well, here it is. This is your excuse to join us. We push play at midnight on Friday. Now, we've already reviewed these two stories, which means our episode next week is different. Not these two stories. Instead,
our episode next week is different. Not these two stories.
Now with Higgs particle. Our episode next week is finally
All Things Shada.
Yay! The book by Gareth Roberts, The Lost Adventure, that was originally penned by Douglas Adams and never completed as an episode, is now out in the North American markets. Keith and I have both purchased copies. Glenn purchased a digital copy, and so we'll have it read and be covering it. And then we're also going to talk the VHS, reconstruction with Tom Baker's linking narration. We're going to talk the animated Flash segment that they posted on the BBC website. The webisode. We're going to talk the Big Finish adaptation with Paul McGann,
which is essentially the same.
Which is the same thing, just without the animation, and everything. So there's going to be a whole lot of shot all the time. And then I will go ahead and get the next piece updated on the website. But further in July, we get 2 new Doctor Who releases. The second Tuesday in July on the 10th, The Crotons with Patrick Troughton, and Death to the Daleks with Pertwee. So we will be reviewing both of those in upcoming weeks, along with some more Big Finish stuff. So I'll have all that posted and on the web soon.
And eventually a return to the Eighth Doctor.
With some Paul McGann stuff, yes.
And quickly, because I don't want to make this too long, but something I meant to mention at the top of the podcast, but we'll mention it here. Sean actually was a guest on another podcast that just released this week. The Stephen King Fans Podcast. Is that correct?
It is. Let me pull it up here so that we can plug it, because he's been... That's not what I wanted. Get out of there.
Sorry, you weren't prepared.
I wasn't prepared.
However, you are
Stephen King Fancast.
That's it, Fancast. You are a huge Doctor. You are obviously a Doctor Who fan.
Yes, I am.
You are a huge Stephen King fan as well.
I am.
So you were asked to go on this show, and tell us just real quickly a little bit about that.
The Stephen King Fancast is a Stephen King fan podcast. And one of the things that we kind of hooked up through Friday Night Who, he joined in. Matt is his name, and he joined us on Twitter for a couple of them. And I had made a Dark Tower-ish comment, and he kind of leaped all over that, since the Stephen King podcast is his thing. And we started conversing, and he invited me to come on the show, and I was very, very excited to do so. And we wind up discussing The Eyes of the Dragon, which was kind of my first introduction into the Stephen King library, so to speak. Ooh. Which, if you haven't read it, it's phenomenal. It's a fairy tale. For all of you that are out there going, like, Chrissy, I'm looking at you. For all of you out there going, I don't like dark, read Eyes of the Dragon, because it's a fairy tale. He wrote it for his daughter, who was 13 years old at the time. And so we do that. And you can find his podcast at www.skfancast.com or StephenKingFan.com, which is, I believe, where the actual iTunes feed is from. So,
and I learned that I've actually been a fan of Stephen King longer than you. I didn't know that. All these years, you're a bigger fan of Stephen King than I am.
I've read more, I think.
I think you have. But you've probably read more times too. I'm sure you've reread stuff too that I have done.
There's only a handful of them.
However, I was shocked by that though. That you said you were a junior in high school. Is that right?
Sophomore.
I remember.
I was sophomore in high school when I was introduced to it.
And he said that. And Sean is a year younger than me.
Yep.
And I thought, well, wait a minute. When he was a sophomore, I'd have been a junior. That's where I was coming from. And then I thought, but I started reading Stephen King when I was in middle school, or would have been junior high back then. And so I went, it's because my first introduction to Stephen King was actually Salem's Lot. I had gotten it from my aunt's a librarian. And that's why it's always, and that's why. Well, we've talked about how Dark Tower. There's the moment in Dark Tower when Father, Callahan. Anyway, so that's always been kind of the thing I associate the most is Salem's Lot, because it was such a wonderful book, and that's what was my gateway into Stephen King. Of course, that's the horror movie or horror writing, because that one's actually about vampires and whatnot. But anyway, so I had read that and got into it earlier on, and so I was quite shocked by that, just thinking, as much steeped in Stephen King as you are, I just thought you had been a fan longer.
Yeah, it was just one of those things, because all of my friends were talking about it in general, and it specifically, because I think the book was pretty big on the and I'm not much of a horror guy.
The movie came out when I was I think I was out of high school by then.
Yeah, I think the miniseries. But I'm not much of a horror guy. But, and everybody was talking about it. It was kind of one of those things, is like, well, if you want to be able to discuss anything with anybody in high school, you kind of have to, be in on it. So I talked to a friend, and he kind of steered me this way, and I started devouring it. And the big thing for me that I've discovered with Stephen King is that even if you don't enjoy horror, even if you don't enjoy, as his daughter put it, slushy crawly vampire things, you can sit down and
That's what Salem's Lot is.
Yeah. You can pick any Stephen King book, and I'm not really spoiling anything by saying this, but you can pick any Stephen King book, and there are dark moments and there are scary moments, but you know what? The good guys are going to win. Mm-hmm. And that's something that I personally really enjoy, is that it's a tale of heroes and redemption, and whatever it happens to be, the good guys always do.
Novels.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there's a couple of short stories.
The short stories, the short stories,
though,
but they're in a different vein, and they're in a different style as well. A lot of times, so.
And as we just spent 2 hours discussing, I'm not opposed to a dark story, but I personally I enjoy it when the good guys win, and it's the white over the red, so to speak.
So there you go. Make sure you check out.
My first introduction to Stephen King was Cycle of the Werewolf.
Oh yeah,
in
really
print
old
form.
School. In print form. That's the first print form.
Not Silver Bullet.
No, not Silver Bullet.
Which is based on Cycle of the Werewolf.
My first film introduction was It, which traumatized me for life.
You would have been quite young when it came out.
Yeah, I was.
You're what, 15 years younger at least than us?
Yeah.
And so,
as he reminds us seemingly every week.
And so I was in college when it came out. So you had to have been in elementary school when you first saw it. So
I know I didn't stay past the introduction. The clown in the sewer, I was gone.
We all float down here.
We're all floating down here.
I've since watched it and enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Still creepy.
Tim Curry makes a scary clown.
He's just good in
Pennywise.
anything.
Tim Curry is the other David Warner.
He would be great in Doctor
He'd be
Who.
fantastic in Doctor Who. Bring Tim Curry on.
And he's British.
Anyway,
I think that's going to do it for us this week.
Thank you, Matt, for the invite.
And be sure to
playing
listen
in
to
the
the Stephen King fan cast if you get a chance, because even if you're not a King fan, at least listen to the episode that Sean was on, and it might talk you into trying to read that one anyway. So. All right,
there are spoilers if you haven't read that.
If you haven't read it, they did spoil it. I forgot about that.
We got real in-depth.
Fortunately, I had read that one. So, anyway, that's going to do it for this week. Okay. Until next week, I'm Glenn.
I'm Sean.
I'm Keith.
Cheers.
Good night, everyone.
Be seeing you.
You've been listening to Traveling the Vortex. Doctor Who and all of its associated programs are owned and trademarked by the BBC. No infringement is intended or implied.